July 23rd. This is Manhattan Community Board 1's full meeting. We are presently at quorum. I'm Tammy Meltzer. I'm Chair of Community Board 1, joined at the front this evening by Alice Blank, our Vice Chair, and Mimi Flynn, our Secretary. So, and we have other elected officers and a nice robust room. So what we're going to do is get started with the public session. All members who are present in the room or online of the public who have signed up to speak can have up to 2 minutes to speak. We ask if you're online and you have signed up to speak, please raise your hand so we can find you. That would be really, really, really helpful. And I'll call based on the signups. All righty. John, I need that laptop back.
Oh, I'm gonna need my laptop. I will take it. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna queue people up, please. Please let me know if you are in the room, so when I call you, I get to understand who's online versus in room. We're gonna go in this following order. Peggy Vina. Catherine, you're in the room. Thank you. Catherine Rafa, you're in the room. Thank you. Okay. Chris Keating. Chris online?
No.
Okay, Chris, if you are online, please raise your hand. And Jan, nope, Jan says no. Okay. Great. And then Nancy Vigiano. All right, so we're gonna go in that order. Peggy, since you have signed up. Pardon? Oh, there are. I'm only calling 4 at a time because I can't remember names past that. Sorry. I mean, I can, but what ends up, yep. So keep in mind, if you're in the room with us, the two things in the center of the table are called owls. That is both our recording devices and our audio device. So that is where we record. I ask that you step to the corner just as you have there, or you can come up front, whichever works best for you, and say your name and your 2 minutes, and Mimi will be timing you.
Okay.
Welcome, Peggy.
My name is Peggy Vina. I recently read a report in Bloomberg that stated that families with children under 5 had fallen 18% since 2020. And I never thought I'd be one of the families considering leaving because we have such a great community and I love my daughter's school. She goes to the Texas school. Sadly, we're thinking about leaving because they're opening a low barrier shelter attached to our public school. And I can't in good conscience send my 6-year-old to unknown danger every day. She weighs 38 pounds and she stands no chance against a grown man who could be on drugs, alcohol, or God knows what else. I'm extremely concerned about the smoking courtyard that will not only send cigarette and pot smoke into our school, but I worry what my daughter might see out that window. The cherry on top was notifying parents with 6 days left in the school year, so there's no time to react. We can all see the construction moving full steam ahead, so it's clear the city doesn't really care what we think. It's very clear from the various filings that this was all in flight long before the community board was notified. You could not sell alcohol at this location, but you could put a low barrier shelter there, and that's okay. I appreciate the motion that this community board passed and ask for your continued support. I recognize there are New Yorkers in need, but this isn't a shelter up the street. It isn't a shelter across the street or around the block. It's a low barrier shelter attached to a public elementary school, and it's a new low for New York City.
Okay, so again, as we do for, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for speaking. We do not clap for people as much as we would love to clap for everybody who comes and speaks. We just need to get through the meeting in an orderly and presented fashion. Catherine, welcome. You can come over here.
I'm right here. I am not a Peckfoot parent, not a parent. I'm just a neighbor who lives on Pearl Street. I am against the shelter. I think it's a great spot for a family shelter, not a safe haven shelter. I am also very concerned about the smoking courtyard that's been proposed, according to reports. If this was a traditional public school with the courtyard, you would never be allowed to smoke on the courtyard. You have a Parks Department sign on the outside, there'd be no smoking allowed. Why are they allowed to propose smoking outside of the windows of the school? So of course, I'm concerned about the play street, many other things. I'm against this shelter. I we should put a family shelter there instead, or low income housing. Catherine Rafa.
Thank you, Catherine, very much. Next, I believe Richard Letzia submitted written testimony, even though he said yes, so I will note from the record he has written testimony. Chris Keating. Chris, are you online? I don't see Chris. If you decide that you come back online, certainly let us know. All right, going down to Nancy Vigiano, and then we're going to do after Nancy. See Nancy online?
I know.
I do not see Nancy online. We can always come back. I do see Kenny Yu. You will be next. Kenny? Can you send a request to unmute Kenny?
I'm available.
Hi, Kenny. Kenny? Yep. Are you sending the request on mute?
Yes. I can hear it now.
Okay, hi, Kenny. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Again, Safe Haven, 320 Pearl Street, opposing it, completely against it. I have to reiterate or also express how I feel, how Peggy spoke before. I'm a parent of a child that's at PEC-SLIP, and I never thought we would have to think about moving our child out of it or even consider a little one not going there because of the situation. This is incomprehensible, irresponsible, and dangerous. It's egregious, to say the least, or how a developer, Slate Properties, with ties to City Hall, Mayor Adams, since back when he was borough president, gets this type of site and city contract. It's very interesting. This is connected to an elementary school being a low barrier status, meaning level 1 and level 2 sex offenders will be allowed in here. And also, primarily, they'll be accepting people with mental health and substance abuse struggles. This will be going on constantly. There will be a rise in problematic situations. They were attempting to fly this project under the radar, being that schools and officials, parents, everyone's gone, getting ready for summer. And they're still attempting to because this is so quiet. No one still has any answers on this. There will be active and current substance abusers that will be housed here. And the proposed smoking area, that courtyard that's in there is shared with the windows of elementary school. This stuff will be affecting the school. This is a different situation where though we're not down the street from the shelter, across the street, around the corner. This one is attached. This is very problematic and dangerous. Breaking ground in a pattern with this situation because they had the same kind of situation placing another safe haven next to a school on Upper East Side. And also back when there was a murder at another facility, June 9th, 2024. This is just, it makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense at all and dangerous. And we just hope that this can be handled and taken care of. And we do care and hope these people get help, and people do need housing. That's understood. But attached to an elementary school, it's dangerous.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you very much.
For the record, we'll note that Richard Letzia, Jen Chen, and Nancy Vigiano, who I called, have all submitted written testimony in opposition to the Safe Haven shelter as well. So moving along, for those who do wish to speak, Randy Krantz. Randy, are you in the room? If you are online, please raise your hand. Keep going.
Tim, this is opposition to the Pearl Street Safe Haven shelter.
So far, yep. Elisa Vega.
Yes, I'm here.
We'll go to you first, and then we'll go to the last person I called who is online. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Lisa. I'm a parent at PEC-SLIP, and I wanted to again emphasize how angry I am at this, at a shelter, at a low barrier shelter being proposed attached to our elementary school. Construction permits for the conversion were filed the day after the school term ended. and issued by the city the week afterwards, and I looked online and the plans were submitted to Landmarks back in January and April, so this has clearly been in the works for months, with the DFS notice not coming until June or before school ends. The city is clearly trying to just push it through while families are away until it's too late for us to do anything. And it's pretty egregious that a developer would tie to the city and try to sneak us in, and how easy it is to get city money based on, you know, endangering our elementary school kids. We only have one safety agent at school who is just not equipped to be able to handle the myriad of problems that will come with understandably having a low barrier shelter attached to our school. New York City is particularly emphasizing a low barrier shelter. Part of it is because that means that there are fewer barriers in order to be able to get in. It's for the chronically homeless. The city's own guidelines on shelters mean there's no background checks, which means sex offenders can be there as long as they're not on probation or parole. It means that there's no sobriety requirements, so if there's active drug use, they won't do anything. And again, it's just our cities, our kids obviously see the realities of New York City, you know, but it's not for safety. Those realities directly with them coming and going and recess and every, you know, and with their school. So thank you very much. And yeah, extremely opposed and extremely angry that the city is trying to do this.
Repeat your name for me again. I apologize.
Repeat,
Me,
Yes.
Elisa Vega.
Elisa Vega, thank you very much for speaking out. I'm a little disconcerted because we have not seen an application, as far as I'm aware, for Landmarks to this. So I don't know how significant the changes are to the building, but it is a place that we can certainly ask and set up.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll try and take a look for that. Let's take a look at other members of the public who have signed up to speak. I am looking, Russell Rosen and Allison Weinstein. You are next. There's a call-in user that has 310 as your first three numbers. Please do me a favor and chat with the office and let us know who you are. Thank you.
Hi, this is Russell Rosen, and I don't have a lot to say because a lot of the people who spoke before me have actually said a lot of the points that I wanted to speak on. Something that I find really disturbing is that it's a low barrier entry homeless shelter. I think that there's something between around 40% of homeless people are drug addicted or abuse alcohol. There is a rate of about 40 to 60% that people will quit their addiction and then go back to it. So you're talking more than half of the people that are going to be in the shelter, if they are drug addicts or struggle with these issues, they're going to be right next to an elementary school. It's unconscionable. And I don't know how this is something that can get passed overnight underneath our noses. My wife's also going to be speaking in a little bit, and she's going to explain about how a homeless person, a crazy homeless person, had accosted a man right in front of her and my children. I'm also saddened by about 2 or 3 kids have left my daughter's class already and transferred to different schools over this. We are all taxpayers. We all live in the neighborhood. This is a detriment to our neighborhood. It wasn't even like we were given a chance to discuss this or try to organize something better. So I'm fully against it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to the next person online, which would be Allison Weinstein. It's a hyphenated, so I. There you go. Allison, welcome.
Allison Weinstein Rosen.
Thank you.
Thanks again for working with us on this. I was actually at the meeting last month in person, and I know how much time you guys are putting into this, and I really appreciate it. I'm a parent of 2 children at Peck Slip, and I guess I have a little bit of a different thing to offer. I think there's no way to really stop the shelter, but I think the important thing is for us to change what type of shelter it's going to be. Given that it's attached to our elementary school, if the shelter were changed to be a family shelter, it could be something really beneficial for everyone. This year, we had 75 migrant children enter our school at Peck Slip. and we did it really well. We were able to provide a community. They became members of our community. We helped them with clothes and supplies. The kids learned from each other, and it was great. And given the statistics of how hard it is to get homeless children or unhoused children to school, the fact that it's attached to an elementary school could really be helpful and make more of a difference. In addition to that, that's, one of the things I have to say. The other thing I want to say that I'm worried about is, first, and it's been said before, we only have one amazing safety agent at our school. And there's no way that, we don't even have a crossing guard. So there's no way that that the school will be able to provide more security. So that's worrisome. Same as as everyone said before, the Play Street has no boundary around it. But lastly, I was walking with my own 5-year-old and another 5-year-old I was bringing to school at 8:15 in the morning. And as soon as we passed this gentleman, we walked past him, and all of a sudden there was a loud noise. And I turned around, and someone unprovoked was punched in the head by a homeless person. It was really scary for all of us involved, and to have to explain to the kids. And I stopped to help the man who was punched, but also making sure my kids were okay. And I reported it to the police. But that's just an example of some of the things that could happen at 8:15 in the morning that are already happening that makes us feel really nervous.
Thank you very much for coming and speaking. By the way, if you are wondering, we do have not our elected reps in the room and online, so without a doubt, they are hearing what you're saying. And we hope that they'll have some comments to make after we get to the public session. Chris Keating. We have Chris Keating online.
Who's Cameron?
Okay. Ellen Chen. If you can unmute Ellen. And Ellen, please make sure you've signed in. That's the 310, if you can unmute her.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Okay, thank you guys. Thanks everyone. I also have remarks similar to Allison's. I've been living in Side-Eye since 2013, and my children are both at Peck Slip at 6 years, and my children have been very happy at the school. But already, similar to Allison, every day as we walk to school, 8:15 in the morning, I have to be sure to avoid walking through certain places that have blind spots, such as the scaffolding that's on Wall Street and Pearl Street and Water Street, because numerous times when we walked through them, as well as our neighbors, the children have been exposed to, men who we assume are experiencing homelessness, masturbating, taking a poop, and peeing, in a corner or directly against the wall. I've called 311, but, that's the extent of what I've been able to do and see results for. I just have called and left this feedback, and every day the children are confronted by mentally ill homeless men and women lying in the street and often yelling, and it's gotten much worse since COVID. So I echo what the parents said about not wanting to leave. I mean, this is our home, but you just feel like you just have no choice but to deal with it. So it's scary enough for the kids to have to manage as they're walking to school. But now with the homeless shelter being proposed to share a wall with their school and the courtyard that looks into their windows, they literally can't avoid it. It's a decision that just does not make sense. The original goal of any shelter is to protect those who cannot protect themselves, who are the most vulnerable. And all of us agree that these small elementary school and preschool children are the most vulnerable. So placing this shelter at the entrance to their school is the opposite of the mission of shelter. Their school should be a safe place for them to learn, and instead of protecting the vulnerable, it endangers them. And so it absolutely should be stopped.
Can you stop us? Thank you very, very much for speaking up. I'm going to note for the record as well that we have several people who have submitted written testimony, several more, which can certainly be available online. I'm not sure if they wish to speak. If so, they'll need to raise their hand. Bridget Shui, apologies if I did not get that right. Kelly Chang has also submitted public written testimony. YZ and Tarvin Zawar says, I signed up to speak and then said I would only like to submit written testimony. So I'm adding your names into the record as having provided testimony. Kevin Vina. Okay, somebody mute her. All right, great. Let's move on then. If you have signed up to speak, do not wish, I wish to speak. Okay. Isabel Letizia. Isabella, welcome. And thank you for coming in person. Much easier to find you.
The Forest Green County Rural Safe Haven Shelter. I'm a parent of a Peckla student, and I'm also a New York City DOE public school teacher. And I work in a school that's entirely surrounded by shelters. So I completely understand, and I teach shelter children every day. I'm in no way against shelters, as they're a great way to support our vulnerable New Yorkers. What I can't support is a low barrier shelter directly attached to an elementary school. For me, I'm against this as a parent, but also wouldn't want the situation for the students I teach every single day. This is an entirely inappropriate place for a shelter, and we're asking you to really consider our children and their safety that's greatly at risk.
That's very convincing.
Thank you very, very much. All right. So anybody else in the room who would like to speak, who I've missed? And can you tell me your first names and your last name so I can, come on up. And did you sign in? And you are? Hi, Peggy, I see you. I apologize. I'm just going to note for the record that I have a large amount of signups, over 80. So go ahead.
So, I'm a mama too. I'm an outreach parent. My kids are 4 and 7 that attend Peckslip School, but since a picture is worth 1,000 words, I want to actually show this. I don't know what the best way to get this on camera is, but this is a picture of our elementary school, the side entrance of our elementary school that my 4-year-old enters every single day, which is immediately attached to the safe haven. You can see there's nothing better than to actually show the visual. They are attached. This is the door to enter the safe haven. This is the door where children as young as 3 years old will be entering every single day. The school houses 400 children between the ages of 3 and 11 and houses a District 2 pre-K center. So there are tons of children ages 3 that are starting in September that will be next to this low barrier safe haven. You can see this image right here, the kids entering and how close the proximity is. It's attached. There's nothing like this that has happened before. It's not like any other shelter that's opening. It is one that is attached to an elementary school. We're not saying not in our backyard. We're saying not in a building attached to a school where 400 children attend daily. Also, I want to note that we find it suspect that Slate purchased this property in 2023, December 2023, over 6 months ago. They issued permits, as Elisa mentioned. They're starting construction. We just found out right before school ended, knowing that we're going to be gone for the summer months, that families are leaving the city, and we're trying to fight this, and we can't because everyone is gone. But it's also suspect that we have written the city and the mayor's office hundreds of letters. The entire community is outraged. We've reached out to them, and it is falling on deaf ears. We've heard crickets. We've heard nothing back from City Hall. We've heard nothing back from the mayor's office. Not only, we all know that this is a low barrier safe haven. There was a murder at the ground facility earlier this month that has higher security than the low barrier safe haven that is open next to our school. Who's going to protect our children? We have so many kids that we need to protect, and it is very important that this does not happen.
I appreciate that, and thank you. Before there is the city representative from the Community Affairs office, but before we let them, I'll let them hear everybody in the community before we call on them for a response. And I would like to recognize Assemblymember Lee, who is also a resident in the district. So Assemblymember Lee, welcome.
Where should I stand? So I direct stand there.
You can stand right here with them.
Okay.
It'll get you anywhere.
Okay, hi, everyone. It's good to see you. Thank you to all the parents who've come. I'll just address that first since that seems to be the topic right now that everyone's mind is on. First of all, I have 3 kids, live on Broad Street. I have been receiving every single email that you have been sending. My team is recording them, and I am working closely with Councilmember Christopher Marte's office to send a letter to the mayor's office. I think it's absolutely unacceptable that they are refusing any type of community engagement. And we need to have at least a discussion about this. I think many of you probably remember me. I also fought very hard against the brownfield cleanup site at 250 Water Street. So we will continue to engage. I'm speaking to a lot of PEXLIP parents, and a lot of them have reached out to me. So this is high on our list. I'm having some other side conversations and other meetings, and we're trying to figure out the best way to navigate this. I agree that it is inappropriate. I am completely supportive of the resolution that CB1 passed. So we will be working very closely to see what we can do to mobilize. Your emails make a difference. When I called the mayor's office, they said they have been deluged by emails from the community. They are aware of this issue. They've escalated it to the highest members of the office. I don't know what that means, but to say that you guys have caught the attention of the mayor's office. So I think we should continue to keep the pressure on, and we'll be working, the electeds together will be working to figure out we have to have some conversations. We have to understand what kind of integration this would have in the community. It's unacceptable, the process that's going on right now. So I'm very supportive, and we're going to work on that. And I have some staff here. We'll pass out my business cards or staff business cards so we can continue to have that conversation. And I left my notes over there. But, well, other than that, I don't need it. So just really quickly, I wanted to give a few updates. Session ended last in June, and so I was able to get a couple bills passed I wanted to quickly share with you, and happy to give you more details if you want to reach out to my office. But really important, we passed a bill around the brownfield cleanup program, which was inspired by my work at 250 Water Street. Many of you may know that one of the difference makers that we were able to achieve through our advocacy through that process was to get an independent community monitor to represent the community through the cleanup process. I passed a bill with Senator Kavanaugh to mandate that any brownfield cleanup site close to a school or daycare will now have the ability to get access to a grant for independent community monitor. Many people here also sent support letters into the legislature to support this bill. So just so you know, not only did your advocacy matter in the neighborhood, but we're going to make it better for other communities with brownfield cleanup sites close to their schools in New York State. I passed a bill called the Stop Hiding Hate Act with Senator Hoylman Siegel, which requires social media companies to post terms of service and to quantify and to report how they deal with harassment and hate speech on their websites. This is in direct response to the numerous accounts of users who have been experiencing hate and harassment and racist interactions online. And so wanted to make sure we worked with the ADL very closely to get that passed. And we're only the second state to have passed that in the country. I also passed the Financial App Security Act, which protects users of peer-to-peer mobile services from money stealing scams. So it would require certain security procedures, security interfaces for apps like Venmo. So if someone steals your phone and can get access to your gets access inside your phone, they can open up Venmo and start directing payments to themselves. So we are requiring that there are certain security put in place on these apps, so it makes it harder for people to steal people's money when they steal their phones. So those were a couple of the highlights. In June, we also hosted Rhythms of LES on the Lower East Side. We had over 350 people. It was to celebrate Puerto Rican heritage, and it was a really great celebration. We'll be doing it every year, but it was a really fun event, and hope all of you can join next time. I'll be hosting mobile office hours. My team is going to be out all across the district during the summer. Tomorrow, we will be at Metro Acres Market on Clinton Street from 12 to 4. On Monday, July 29th, we'll be at Sarah D. Roosevelt Park from 2 to 6. But these are other ways that people can reach out to us. In August, we'll also be at Sewer Park Library and at Columbus Park. Also at National Night Out, we will be tabling on August 6th. So you will see us at the First Precinct. I know PS1, the First Precinct is going to be doing an event. And so we'll have a table out there for all of you to reach out. And the rest of my notes are over there, but yeah. I think there are probably questions for me, so I'll take.
Board member questions for Assembly Member Lee. Eric.
Yeah, hi Grace. I'd like to know, would you sponsor legislation with Kavanaugh in the Senate and also hopefully Deborah Glick to say that there should be no homeless shelters within a quarter mile of the school? And of course, I'm going to ask the same thing to Chris Marte's office as well. But
Do you know how far a quarter
think
mile
that-
is?
second,
Yeah, a quarter
Do you know how
mile.
far a quarter mile is?
Like,
nowhere.
there would be no shelters
no
anywhere.
No shelters.
There,
okay, then if it's not
Okay.
20 miles, then go for a fifth of a mile, but there needs to be some minimum distance from a school.
I mean, I think that the legislative angle is not going to be the way that we stop the shelter. I do not even enter back into session until January of next year. And this shelter is scheduled for late fall or early next year. I mean, if anything, I'm sure the mayor would love for us to do that, because then they can say, wait for the legislation to pass and then we'll deal with it. That's a way of kicking the can down the road. What we really need to do now is to have direct conversations with the city, with the mayor's office to deal with this issue. I'm happy to look into what kind of legislation would help support the community, but I don't think that that's going to be the solution to dealing with this issue right now.
What about DSS?
Hey. Stop. The way we operate community board meetings is you must be recognized, right? I don't usually try and you have to raise a hand, you have to be recognized, and you have to state your name. Okay, so if you have a question for Assembly Member Lee, please raise your hand. It's okay.
Just wondering if anyone reached out to DSS, because that's what I'm hearing from different sources, that the head of DSS or whoever is handling this is also involved in this. So I don't know if that's around or like if that's.
That's what we did in,
But
I can answer that question from a community board. That is where our letter went, is to the head of DSS for Manhattan. That's where our communications and things have been, in a follow-up call that we had after the board meeting with them. They're not unknown. It is not unknown, but at the end of the day, where does the buck stop for every agency? At the mayor's feet.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think also, like, there's a lot of opposition in many neighborhoods. I'm sure many of you saw that there was a massive protest in South Brooklyn around another shelter where a council member was arrested. So,
I don't see you biting somebody.
Yeah. I will not, like, hopefully will not come to that. But so I also feel, I mean, I feel like there is a general feeling by the mayor's office, they are not going to stand down on any single project, because that means it would lead to them having to deal with other projects. But well, we have to have some rational, reasonable conversations with the mayor's office, and they haven't done that with us yet. And I think that's like the next step right now.
Alrighty. Assemblymember Lee jumped ahead so she could speak now, because she also has to go to Community Board 3. So I'm gonna stop and let her depart, because she has graciously been with us for an hour waiting to get her stuff done, and continue with the public session. Is Brian here?
Right, so where is?
So because, all right,
Okay, yeah, I'm looking for my,
it's,
oh, yes, okay. Then my staff is here. This is Sebastian. And will be, and if you want to get in touch with our office, he'll be here taking notes and that sort of thing. So we can continue our conversations. Happy to have more conversations.
Yeah.
And you can also reach out to my office at any time.
all right, and Sebastian's here.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, we're gonna let Assemblymember Lee go because she did ask to go first and I made her wait 45 minutes to hear from the community. So I'm trying to be very respectful of her time as well. All right, but we're gonna keep going. You actually had your hand raised and if you'll stand and tell us your name so I can make sure I check you off on the attendance.
Sure, Anthony Hannigan.
And Anthony, you signed in, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome.
So I have two kids, both of them would be going to the Tech Club school. The shelter open, we will not be doing that. I happen to live at 324 Scholl Street, which is the neighbor on the other side of the shelter. And in general, I have a long support of shelters. My family's been involved in shelters. My father's actually was a founding member of CUCF, the operator that's opening the shelter on Washington Street.
Yeah.
Tony Hannigan, I'm sure he showed up here.
Yeah.
He was on the founding board of Breaking Ground. I know how these shelters operate, and Lowberry State Haven shelters are going to primarily have people who have mental illness and drug addiction. In order to entice people to get off the street, they're going to allow you to continue using drugs. Because if you couldn't come and use drugs, you would just stay where you are on the street. So that is the reason for being a low barrier. On site, you're not allowed to use drugs. So if someone is actively addicted to heroin, crack, whatever they may be addicted to, if they're not allowed to use it on site, where are they going to use it? They're going to leave at 2 a.m. with no curfews. They're going to walk around the corner and they're going to use there. They're going to be using it at the dog park that's on the other side and in front of the school. So I have a safe haven shelter next to my office. It's not an everyday occurrence, but it's not uncommon that if I use needles on the sidewalk, remnants of weed, marijuana, that could all be left basically in the street in front of the school where kids play recess. There's like cobblestone streets there. It'd be very easy for a needle or drugs or anything to be left. I also fully support the family shelter idea, but the reality is that Breaking Ground does not operate in the shelter. The city would need to find a new operator. So it would be a very big uphill battle to get Breaking Ground to change to a family shelter style. I'd also be in full support of permanent housing, which I believe Breaking Ground does do.
Me too.
And so that might be the better focus for Breaking Ground. The same operator could stay there. They do permanent housing. With the safe haven shelter, it's Breaking Ground's own guidelines that they try to get people into housing within 6 months. And that means that you're not looking at 106 people, single men. You're looking at 300 different transient men in a given calendar year. And so you're looking at the odds of just one of those 300 men causing a problem with a real reality. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Christian. Had I known, we could have had you come to Quality of Life every month and talk with DSS.
Happy to attend.
There you go. I love that thought.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. All right. So if you're in the room and you signed up to speak, please raise your hand. All right. If you are online and you signed up to speak, please raise your hand. Okay. So Christian Williams from the mayor's office is here. Christian, you can unmute yourself because you're a panelist. We ask that you have your camera on. Thank you and welcome.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to make a brief comment. My name is Christian Williams. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of External Affairs at CAU. I'm happy to be here virtually. I just wanted to say that I and along with my colleagues at City Hall, DSS, DHS, we've heard all the comments, the concerns from the community regarding the shelter, and it's important, and we're going to continue to evaluate the best steps to address your concerns, while also making sure that we can provide assistance to the mandate of providing shelters for those who seek it. And so my understanding is that DSS is going to be appearing before the board in September to provide more information regarding the shelter and to answer questions. So I just wanted to provide that information. That's all.
Christian?
Yes.
While I appreciate the mayor's announcement that you're going to come to I would guess our quality of life meeting in September. Is that the goal?
I'll double confirm which meeting. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll double confirm for you. Yeah.
So I'm going to say for anyone who's here for this topic that they should know to look at our agendas. The most likely would be the Quality of Life, Health and Human Services Committee. And
Okay.
while I appreciate you saying address concerns, I think the answer, especially after the last speaker, is it's not concerns, it's about a change of provider, no offense intended to breaking ground. But if they don't know how to do anything other than a safe haven and you're still looking for a shelter, we'd love to hear the opportunities that would exist for different types of shelters. Also, please bring it back to the mayor's office that we asked and said, we'd like to see a different type of shelter in Community Board 1, unless you can tell us that we've solved homelessness for adult families or families with children or anything else. We have a safe haven shelter that's opening at 105 Washington. So this shelter needs to get up and moving and see the impacts it does on our streets before we cite another one. So we've said this by resolution, the community has said this. I don't think, you cannot underscore enough that a safe haven attached to a school is an inappropriate location. This is not across the street. This is not down the hall. This is not from a back door, a front door, a side door. This is next door, a butt to the school, overlooking the school. The school looks in, they look out. It's just completely inappropriately located. We welcome breaking ground if they'd like to set up, permanent housing there. We have long advocated for affordable housing, low-income housing, all kinds of housing. So you've got the pitch. I'm sorry that you're here, not here in person.
No.
But yeah.
I just want to say thank you for sharing that. I will make sure that my colleagues at City Hall and DSS are aware of the comments you just made. So just wanted to
Yeah,
make that.
we have said this early and often. Okay, and please don't go anywhere. Please stay on the line. We have more people to speak for the public session, okay? I'm gonna, because.
Just
he
want to
was
say, I unfortunately have to leave, but it's possible I can, so I actually have another event. I apologize. But I can leave my contact information and follow up with folks after. I would happy to, with normal circumstances, love to stay for the entire meeting, but I apologize.
Chris, I don't need you to stay for the entire meeting. Can you give us 20 minutes till 7:15?
I can give you 20 minutes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Morton, you have 1 minute for a question.
My question is, it's my understanding that the shelter is supposed to open in September. Is the mayor's office going to commit not to open the shelter until the community has an opportunity to be engaged in comment? Or is it going to be presented in September as a fait accompli already open?
Right. Is this question for me?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
now I understand why you asked if I could see a 7:15. I am sorry. I didn't realize there were questions. Okay, understood. I don't have the answer to that, but I will follow up and make sure that we have some response. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, we'd love that response in writing, please. I'm going to let the members of the public ask the mayor's office because they're not in the room and they have to, go ahead.
Sure, absolutely.
Please stand, say your name and ask the question.
So that question.
Your name.
Oh, Elisa. Again, construction permits have been issued and they want to do construction this summer. So again, so like you mentioned, in September, can the mayor's office promise that no construction, no conversion will be done until September?
Or after?
Or after?
Christian?
I will definitely flag it for them. I don't want to speak in any absolutes and say yes or no. I like to be transparent. I'm not as involved, and I want to make sure I'm caught up to speed on some of the conversation, and I want to make sure I get back to you with accurate information. But I will follow up.
That is a request that needs to go fairly quickly, Chris. There's a time on that, so, quite frankly, before the end of the month would be greatly appreciated.
For that. This is Pat Moore, on the board, the chair of quality of life. And so all of the shelters have come to our committee. Christian, we want to make sure that we have an answer. As someone else said, we don't want to wait until September and then all of a sudden, oops, the shelter's opening. So we need you to get back to us next week. Either tell us you don't have the information or give us the information that you have. Can you promise to do that?
Yes, I will do my best to get your answer before the end of next week. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Desi?
Hi, Christian. This is Desi Robinson, a board member, also quality of life committee member. And can you tell us exact departments that have the answers to these questions that our community is asking for? No disrespect to you. I'm just wondering who would be the one that would say hey or nay, and who can come with you to our quality of life meeting, which will happen in September.
I think that's. I was just going to say, I think that's a great question. It's a combination of senior leadership.
On the spot? And,
No, it's okay. I don't mind answering the question. I'm going to be as honest as possible, and the answer is it's a combination of senior leadership at DSS. So the commissioner, I used to work for DSS some years back. My experience has been the commissioner, the first deputy commissioner, the deputy commissioners that would be overseeing shelter openings, a combination of senior leadership at City Hall as well. Would be the people who would have final say in determination of the shelter openings.
So Chris,
Yes.
we really want you to intervene, as we've asked, with the Department of Buildings to put a work stoppage, which I understand is above the Department of Buildings. That might be the mayor's office that asks that there be, as we've asked, no conversion into a safe haven shelter until the community has been engaged. Because once you get the changes done on the building for the construction, it's really hard to make those changes in construction. So the input and concerns and everything that happens, whether or not it remains that type of a service that you're offering, whether it changes and how it changes, should all come for a discussion before DOB permits and construction is started, unless you're going to tell me that they're demoing the entire building, which I pretty much understood from DSS that is not the case, because they looked to have a building with an elevator and they liked the existing building. So again, it's a stop work. It's a promise that no work will be done until the Department of Social Services, DHS, engages with us, not the operator, because we know that they're selling their service. We're talking about DHS, the statistics of DHS, the opportunities to understand if the contracts have been signed by the controller and the mayor's office with both Breaking Ground and Slate Properties.
I will send that to all of the agencies, DOB, DSS, City Hall leadership. I'll make sure that they're aware of that request.
And I know it's also summer vacation time, because we're facing the same thing, and obviously the PTAs aren't allowed to convene in the summer because they're on vacation. But I would hope, because we've been arguing and hollering and hooting for over a month on this, that we could have the answers by June 30th. July 30th.
You have my
I
word.
wanted June 30th. I'll take July 30th.
I appreciate that. I just want to give everybody my word that I'm going to flag this for all the necessary parties tonight. So that they understand the urgency of the request.
Christian, do me a favor. Would you mind sharing your direct email?
Sure, absolutely.
And
So
phone number?
absolutely, no problem. My email is CH Williams, so CHWILLIAMS at cityhall.nyc.gov, and I'll also put it in the chat. And then my number is 929-492-1722. 929-492-1722. That's my direct cell. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
And I just also wanted to share that as the assistant commissioner, I oversee the borough directors and constituent services at CAU. So just want to explain my role.
I get that. Robin is here a lot, but I mean, when the city's doing things and we just haven't, I can ask Robin 1,000 times. Robin was here in June and we talked to Robin probably weekly about what's going on with the shelter, but it's really disingenuous for me to put Robin in a spot to say, Robin, you have to answer me when DOB permits get filed. We're waiting to hear back from the city and from DHS and DSS. So it's kind of like the community, calls us saying, but we said that, we want to hear, has City Hall said anything? I mean, I can chase Robin as often as I want, but the buck has to go above Robin. It's not, you get where I'm going?
Yes, and to be honest, I will make sure that's flagged for the people so I can get an update of what happened, because Robin and myself, we're not involved in that decision making, but we can make sure that the people who are hear the questions from the community.
All right, last comment on this topic goes to Bob Townley.
Right, I'm not talking about the capital cost for renovation of the hotel, but can you tell us approximately the cost per client to house somebody in that space?
What you
What's
said-
the cost to the city? What is the reimbursement rate to the nonprofit per day?
I do not know, but I can find out and provide an answer. I don't have an answer at this time.
Okay, thanks. That would be very helpful.
And that's cost per person that would be there in the city?
My understanding is you're reimbursed by the amount of your clients in there. You get a capital grant to do the renovation, but after that, there's a way of funding the ongoing operation. The ongoing operation is funded on a per diem basis. That's been my experience over the years looking at these projects. Just curious what it is in 2024.
Thank you, Bob.
Understood.
Thank you, Chris. We have 14 minutes left of your time before you sign off. So I'm going to go back to my chart, and Brian Kavanaugh has joined us as well. Brian, if you will be patient with me for just a moment, I'm going to see if I know we have Justine and one other person who wanted to say something about anything else, and then I'll close the public session. Justine, go. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for your patience, Brian and everybody else. All right, so my name is Justine Kucha, clearly a member of the board. And I'm talking about the announcement that the city and the state have partnered with the Battery Park City Authority to allocate $500 million to fund affordable housing, which sounds like from the Joint Purpose Fund. Sounds like a great idea, but it raises a lot of questions for me. First, why did the BPCA and its partners ignore multiple Community Board 1 resolutions asking that we be given a seat at the table to formulate a plan for this month? This is not an arbitrary request because those funds come from ground rent paid by Battery Park City residents who are constituents of Community Board 1. Second, how does this agreement define affordability and for whom? Our community and our city needs economically integrated housing that contains multiple trenches of affordability across a range of income bands. This is the only way to avoid creating concentrated pockets of poverty. Third, where will this money be spent? A significant portion of that $500 million should be earmarked for Lower Manhattan community that has provided those funds. CB1 has lost more affordable housing stock in the last 20 years than any other district in the entire state. There is no place where affordability is graver crisis than right here. Fourth, what does fund mean under the terms of this agreement? After decades of the Battery Park City Authority forking over hundreds of millions of dollars for affordable housing to the city, we do not know specifically where that money was spent. Why? Because all of the money was absorbed by arcane fiscal engineering like the 421A make goods. Does this $500 million commitment mean that the city will spend an additional $500 million on affordability? Or does it instead allow the Adams administration to spend less than they otherwise would have on affordable housing and using this money instead to diverting the original funds to other projects? So it's not on affordable housing, but it's filling in gaps. If so, then this commitment to affordable housing, the Joint Purpose Fund, is just lip service. It does not in fact create more affordable housing. Transparency, specificity, and enforceable chapter and verse commitments are what CB1 would have been pushing for had we been given a seat at the table that we saw. But even now, that's not still too late to do the right thing. And we're calling upon our public officials and the mayor's office and everybody else who's elected to do the right thing. And let's keep fighting. Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. John Scott, you are signed up to speak.
Yeah, well, mine is just an announcement, is that we have an annual downtown adult day picnic. And it's on August 15th, and it's from 12 to 2. Last year, we had 200 people come. We gave box lunches and ice cream. And we had our congressman, our state senator, Kavanaugh, our city councilman, Marte. And it's a good day, and I just wanted to promote it, that we're having it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The Washington Market Park.
It's in Washington Mark. Why don't you leave some flyers on the back table for anybody who wants it? Please scan and send a flyer so we can distribute widely. All righty. I am gonna close our public session. So for members of the public, what that means is you are welcome to stay, but you will no longer be recognized unless you're staying here for the public hearing. So it's 7:05 and closing the public session. I'm gonna open the public hearing, which was on community input for city expense and capital budget priorities. But keep in mind, we'll have another session of this. I would suggest for all of the public who joined us today, who are concerned about things that they need in their schools, like school safety agents, crossing guards, and citing of other things, that they consider budget allocations that you'd like to ask for 2025-26. All right? And I see no one who has signed up online for the public hearing necessarily. So I'm gonna make that announcement for the public, and we hope you come back in September and tell us the things that you need so we can advocate for you.
Quick comment to tell the public about what you
Justine,
just
go
said.
for ahead.
We're gonna be talking about that, and we'll be talking about the resolution. You'll get some ideas about what we're talking about, if you can hang out for maybe another half hour to hour.
Nah. Or if you have to, you can join us online.
Yes.
Super easy, as you know your colleagues have. All righty?
Yeah,
So with that, I'm opening the public hearing at 7:06 and closing the public hearing at 7:07. All righty? And then we will go to say thank you very much to the public who's joined us. Chris, you have Chris Williams, an awful lot of responses for the community, please. Okay, and with that, let's go into the business session. We're going to adopt the June 2024 minutes. Do I have any comments, feedback, anything?
Can I call the question?
Absolutely.
Second.
Awesome. Roll call. This is roll call for the minutes. Hint, hint for board members in the hallway. Go.
Amoruso. Blank.
Yes, blank.
Brown Kennedy. Thanks. Cameron.
Cameron, yes.
Thank you. Cassell.
Cassell, yes.
Thank you. Chang. Chapman. Thank you. Charkoudian.
Trick shot up.
Cole. Coleman.
Yes.
Thank you. Corman.
Norman, yes.
Thank you. Kucha.
Kuchia, yes.
Thank you. Curtis.
Curtis, yes.
Thank you. Airman. Flores. Flynn, yes. Thank you. Forsberg.
Norman, yes.
Thank you. Friedman.
Friedman, yes.
Thank you. Froman.
Norman, yes.
Thank you. Galloway.
Galloway, yes.
Thank you. Goldstein.
Goldstein, yes.
Thank you. Goodtime. Yes. Thank you. Hernandez.
Yes.
Thank you. Irshad.
Irshad, yes.
Thank you. James.
James, yes.
Thank you. Joyce.
Joyce, yes.
Thank you. Kay. Thanks. Canal.
Yes.
Thank you. Capel. Lerner.
Lerner, yes.
Thank you. Lynn. Lyon.
Lyon, yes.
Thank you. Meltzer.
Yes.
Thank you. Minsley.
Yes.
Thank you. Moore.
More, yes.
Thank you. Pendia.
Here.
Yes.
Yes or no?
She's got her camera on. Oh, there she is.
Oh.
Hi. Okay, great. Thank you.
Portia Corey. Thank you. Robinson.
Robinson, yes.
Thank you. Rossi?
Rossi,
Thank you. Scott?
Yes.
Thanks,
Scott,
you.
yes.
Shear?
Sure, yes.
Thank you. Star?
Star, yes.
Thank you. Sung? Jimmy Sung? Vera Sung?
yes.
Thank you. Terry? Not here. Thompson? Thank you. Townsley?
Yes.
Thank you. You?
Yes.
Thank you. Selter?
Shelter, yes.
Thank you.
All right, great. Let's continue on with our elected officials. Brian Kavanaugh is with us online tonight, and I know you're also doing double duty. Brian, take it away. Oh, Brian. Uh-oh, he might be at CB3.
There you go.
Oh, he's walking outside. Brian, I saw you briefly.
I was in. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes. No can. There you go.
Okay, I was a little bit of spot when I first called in, but it's great to be with all of you. I do have a couple of commitments tonight, including another community board meeting, but it's great to be with all of you. I'll just give a brief report on a few things, and obviously happy to take questions if you folks have them. But just a few. First, there's been a lot of attention recently to the lithium-ion batteries, which have a really unfortunate tendency to cause fires, sometimes tragic ones, including some in our communities. There's several things going on several fronts in this. First, I joined the governor and a lot of my colleagues in signing a package of legislation that is intended to make sure that the batteries that are available in New York are safe, set standards, and make it illegal to sell batteries that don't meet those standards. I also joined the mayor and the fire commissioner just yesterday in announcing a series of really innovative things that we're doing, that the city's doing at the city level, including piloting programs that will allow delivery workers and others to trade in unsafe equipment for safe equipment and create outdoor storage, outdoor charging capacity. It put the fire department in a really extensive study determined that although there's a lot of talk about how these batteries cause fires when they're charging, the majority of these fires actually were caused when the batteries were not charging. They simply were faulty and they explode. So people should be really careful about where they store them. And, somebody noted you wouldn't store, a gallon of gasoline in your bedroom, and you probably shouldn't be storing your lithium-ion battery right next to the door of your bedroom either. So a lot of good things going on. We have one more big item, which I passed in the Senate on this topic, but we didn't get to the Assembly, which is to require the producers to take responsibility for the full life cycle of their batteries. We'll both address, the safety issue of proper disposal and also our need to recover the materials, the raw materials that are necessary to build, the next generation of these batteries. Just another quick update. We did pass during the session, Assemblymember Lee and I, a bill that is intended to ensure that people involved in brownfield programs that have a brownfield cleanup in their neighborhood have access to technical assistance. We managed to get that in this community, get the project to pay for that. But we want to make sure that DEC's program is making that routinely available. We are still working on getting the governor's signature on that. Battery Park City, we did pass a bill about the composition of the board in the Senate. Unfortunately, in spite of some great effort by Assemblymember Fall, the Assembly didn't take it up this year, but that's an ongoing issue. In the meantime, we did have 2 new appointees to the board of the Battery Park City Authority, and I worked with the governor's office to ensure that at least one of them is a primary resident of Battery Park City. I can talk more about the special purpose fund if people have questions. I know Justine and others have spoken about it already, but just to say, it is, I think, a step in the right direction relative to the prior agreement. Prior agreement allocated $841 million out of that fund, but it started by taking $200 million off the top for the state and another $200 million off the top for the city, just to go to the general fund. This is $500 million that will be available for affordable housing. And I've gotten assurances from the Battery Park City Authority and the city that the money is not spoken for at this point. It is being transferred, being clearly earmarked for affordability. I think, and I've emphasized to them, and they agree that they particularly for opportunities to spend the money in Lower Manhattan. And I think that, part of the goal, part of the process here needs to be that we identify projects that actually could be funded in this way, because obviously a program requires not only funding, but a site and a plan. We have convened with with members of this board and others, our Manhattan Detention Complex Construction and Demolition Working Group. We have that. This is a working group that's modeled on the approach we took to 250 Water, to the environmental cleanup there, and it is intended to address the many impacts that project is having on the community, including noise and air quality and vibrations and other things. And I think it was a tough conversation, because it was clear that the city and the contractor have not fully appreciated the impact they're having. But I think we got a real commitment from the city to follow up and work on these issues. And the meeting was last week, but we've already had some additional conversations with the city on what they can do to address those things. So I thank the community board for being a co-convener of that, along with Senator Lee and Congressmember Goldman and the borough president Mark Levine and Councilmember Marte. So we're hoping that will be an improvement in terms of people knowing what's going on and being able to get real responses. I think that's a lot, and I know you have a busy agenda, so I think I'll stop there. I will say we've gathered resources that are particularly available this summer for folks. One is the summer EBT program to make sure that children who qualify for free and reduced school meals also have money for food during the summer. There's information on our website about that, as well as the free summer meals program. Just to emphasize, you don't need ID, you don't need to sign up. You can go to a school that's doing that and participate. Also, just people should, we tried to focus on the city's efforts to keep people out of the extreme heat we've been having. We have developed a map of our own, which is available through our website. And Dan hired my community staff is there in person, but we want to make sure that people are really paying attention to heat. It is at the levels we've been seeing it deadly. So please be careful and let us know if we can help. So I think I'll stop there. I'm happy to take questions if you want, or if you want to move on, that's fine.
All right, you have, Brian, as is usual, many hands in the room. I'm going to go Justine, Jill, Jess, and Eric.
Thanks so much. And thanks so much for all you've done for Battery Park City this legislative session, Brian. I appreciate it. My question to you is based on the Joint Purpose Fund. And can you advise if anywhere in the legislation it's clear that this money will be spent in addition to whatever the budget is for affordable housing?
Yeah, this is an agreement, but the money can't be spent except pursuant to an agreement that includes the Battery Park City itself. Effectively, the governor's office negotiates that, as well as the authority at the mayor's office, and also significantly the controller of the city of New York, Brad Linder, who's a very longstanding advocate for affordable housing. It is incrementally additional money that will be available for the city. You may know that a lot of the capital that the city spends is state and federal money that flows to HBD and to HDC and others. So there is a city capital budget, but I don't think there's any reason to think that this reflects any diminishment in the city's commitment. And obviously it doesn't alter the state and the federal commitments. So I view this as a first step. It's an important step. I've been emphasizing to them that you shouldn't just be allowing, money to pile up in the midst of a housing crisis.
Exactly.
In kind of effectively escrow. So it's good that they did what they did. It's good they didn't give any money unlike prior administrations, off the top. But it is important that we follow up. The Daily News has an editorial on this topic today as well, and I think it's a positive step. I do wish they did more consultation with those in the city of Manhattan about, our real desire to make sure it's spent locally. But I do think we still have opportunities to have that conversation.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And I'm not going to ask what else.
No, Jill. Jill.
Oh, she is. So it's somewhat ironic that the last bit of affordable housing in Battery Park City, that would be Gateway Plaza's quasi-rent stabilized apartments, are going to expire. How can you work to make sure that some of this money goes towards those Gateway Plaza apartments to preserve the last bit of affordability?
Yeah, there's actually been some conversation in the community about whether this deal is restricted to not have the money spent in Battery Park City. Someone had heard that that might be possible and that perhaps the prior agreement had terms like that. And I can just say first, there is nothing in this agreement that would prevent this money from being spent subsidizing affordability in Battery Park City itself. Now, the Gateway situation is a little more complicated because, of course, there's a private landlord that has, I think it's fair to say, been reluctant to negotiate with the spirit of generosity toward our goals of making the place affordable. I think maybe that was a little bit diplomatic, but I'm certainly open to having conversations about whether that might be a possibility, and there may be other kinds of affordability within Battery Park City that we might be able to try to use some of this money for. It is generally used for capital subsidies, but it's not part of this. It's not part of the city or the state capital budget, which is not borrowed, which means it doesn't necessarily need to meet all of the normal standards of capital spending. So I'm definitely open ideas about that. I will say the landlord in that particular complex would have to be a little partner. We couldn't make them do affordability with us.
Okay, next, Jess.
Thank you, Senator. As I'm sure you know, the governor's unilateral and unlawful decision to cancel congestion pricing, or pause it, excuse me, has left our public infrastructure in a state of crisis without any plan whatsoever to address the issue going forward. So I want to thank you for your longstanding support of congestion pricing. But is there any update you can give us?
I turned my camera off because it was easier to hear you with it off. But I would say no update since, as people know, the governor announced that she was delaying, she used different verbs for this, but suspending indefinitely or perhaps pausing congestion pricing. She announced that 2 days before the end of the legislative session. There was an effort to get the legislature to pass a bill that would have made it clear that we're prepared to, find $15 billion for the capital needs of the MTA. I personally thought that was a bad idea because I thought it would ratify, what was a very sudden decision by the governor. And I think that one issue that we need to address is how to cover the cost of the MTA. But there are many other issues in terms of, including, the implications for congestion and the environment and a whole bunch of other things. This has been in the works for a very long time. I think it's an ongoing conversation, and I think we'll be back to it. And I am certainly committed to making sure the MTA is fully funded to many critical projects, but I think we need to have a robust conversation about what comes next. And I don't think there was a viable, coherent alternative on the table before the legislature adjourned on June 8th or so. But it will be an ongoing conversation, but I don't, and the MTA has subsequently met and, effectively paused their work on certain capital projects. I don't think any real damage has been done yet, but obviously we need money, and I am committed to continuing to work with all parties on that.
Thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, hi, Senator Kavanaugh. Would you sponsor legislation in the Senate to prohibit homeless shelters within a quarter mile or 1,300 feet from a school?
The short answer is probably not. It would be very difficult for a place like New York City, especially a place like Manhattan, to cite any shelters at all if we said it can't be within 5 blocks of a school. Frankly, there's probably very few places in Manhattan that are not within 5 blocks of a school, except perhaps, in the middle of Central Park. So I have emphasized to the city that they really should proactively reach out to the community about potential impacts of this, there are actually 3 different projects going on in CB Police right now. And I think they've been, responsive and open and collaborative and communicative about one of them, and not so much with particularly the PECS site. So I'm urging them to have a real conversation about impacts, and I think that it's important that the community's concerns about impacts. I know that the provider was willing to meet and the city not. I do think it's useful to meet with the provider, but I agree. I think Tammy expressed this earlier. It doesn't make sense for the city, which ultimately controls the contracts and chooses the service and does the referrals, not to be there also. But at the end of the day, we have lots of homeless people in our community, and the implication of not providing facilities would be more and more people living in public spaces, because they're not going to go to New Jersey or Texas if we decide not to provide shelter.
Okay, Betty is next, Dr. Betty Kay.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Senator Kavanaugh. I want to say that as head of the Transportation Committee, I was very happy to see the legislation that was passed. It was very comprehensive, and I think it'll hold great value. Lithium-ion batteries are a problem, and as someone who uses a mobility scooter, I'm constantly surprised that one, lithium-ion is in everyone's life side. It is at their bedside, whether it's their phone or their tablets. But there are those of us who use them for mobility that have large ones, as large as the e-bikes do. And yet I sleep next to mine every night. I have for over a decade. The other problem is because I can't recycle it very easily. I'm not very mobile. Most of mass transit is not accessible. It's not going to get any accessibility. How do I recycle? I keep requesting the Battery Park City Authority and everyone else that does these sites for recycling. When are they going to include batteries, especially lithium ion? They all refuse to do it because it's too difficult. So I just keep storing more and more of them in my apartment. And I'm not alone.
I 2 things, several responses. First of all, as I mentioned, I have legislation that would require producers of these things, basically anybody importing them into New York or producing them for sale in New York, to have a comprehensive, convenient program to take them back and dispose of them and recycle them properly. So that's a bill. Again, I passed it in the Senate, but it didn't pass the Assembly. So we're still working on it. Second thing is part of the city's program is to create opportunities to trade in spent batteries for fresh ones. We should talk about making, they've primarily focused on the delivery cyclists because those have been particularly associated with a lot of the fires and a lot of safety issues. But we should talk about how it applies to your situation. And the third thing is so one of the things they're emphasizing is getting property owners to do this stuff outdoors. I personally will talk to the Battery Park City Authority promptly about as a large property owner participating in that program, which again, the city is rolling out. The third thing is if you have a number of these batteries and you want help in figuring out how to properly dispose of them, I'm happy also to work with you directly to figure that out as a short-term solution.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll follow up with you.
All right.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have any other hands in the room? Okay, awesome. Brian, thank you very, very much for coming. Thank you. I know that Dan is here for any other questions if we need to, and he'll be listening for the rest. So thanks and have a good summer. We'll see you in September.
You too. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Okay, bye.
All right. Moving along, I don't have any other electeds in the room as far as I know, or online. So let's go to Tevin Williams from Congressman Goldman's office. After Tevin, we'll go to Max, because I don't think I have, oh, no, we're going to go to Roy. After Tevin, sorry, we're going to go to Roy from Assemblymember Glick's office. Sorry. Okay, Tevin, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Chair Meltzer and everyone from CB1. Good evening and happy summer. It's good to hear and see everyone. Just a few quick updates. As everyone knows, the congressman in the district actually worked to mitigate damages caused by extreme weather power outages. He has introduced a bill called the Prolonged Power Outage Relief Act, which would enable individuals and small businesses to qualify for low interest loans to recover losses from the power outage. And then just a quick couple of things that happened recently in the district. One of the congressman's priorities is gun violence. Him and Senator Cory Booker just introduced the Preventing Pretrial Gun Violence Purchase Act, which prevents these vulnerabilities in the federal background check system. As many people know, there was an unfortunate tragedy this past weekend with the former president, and we had our hearing on Monday. As many people know, the Secret Service director has resigned, but there are still some loopholes when it comes to getting guns, and the congressman and the minority have been working to address that. And then finally, I just wanted to speak about one last thing when it comes to a RAISE grant that the City Department of Transportation received from the congressman supporting that. It's $5.6 million from the Rebuilding American Infrastructure, Sustainability and Equity Act. And this grant will actually help the U.S. Department of Transportation create equity-centered low and zero emission freight delivery strategies across New York City. And this was supported in February. Happy to take any questions, but those are my updates as of right now.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Tevin? Eric?
Okay.
Newman?
Yeah, regarding, you mentioned in case of power outages that businesses would qualify for low interest loans. Is it also possible to have it where in case of power outages, customers get reimbursed prorated? Because customers, electric power customers, they get charged just for having electricity. So if they don't have electricity for a week, those customers will get that money back because they didn't have it, they didn't even have it available to them. Versus a loan, so that would be a deterrence from utility to ensure that their customers always have power.
So I think it's more with that specific one would be more towards the city when it comes to like how Con Ed or whatever your current provider is. But this one is specific for small businesses and whatnot. But if you want to follow up with me, I can get you more information on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Please follow up with Eric. Sorry about that. Anybody else have anything else for Tevin? Hearing nothing, let's move on. Thank you very much, Tevin. Have a great summer. We'll see you in September.
Take care, everyone.
Roy Ruiz from Assemblymember Glick's office. You're up.
Roy Ruiz with Assemblymember Deborah Glick's office. I wanted to mention two things because there's a deadline coming up for both of them. The grants for small businesses located in flood zones, sent out the city wanted flood zone. So earlier this year, the Department of Small Businesses launched a first ever business preparedness and resiliency program, risk assessment and grant program, where businesses that are located near flood zones can get a one-on-one risk assessment and up to $5,000 in grant to buy equipment related to resilience. The second one, then that is open until July 26th, so that deadline is coming up. And then the summer EBT food benefits. So this works sort of like SNAP benefits, but this is for eligible families. This is managed through OTDA, which is a state agency. Eligible children can receive up to $120 of summer food benefits. So it's worth looking into. We have a customer service number here with hours of operations for that, and that is open till September 3rd. And last month was Pride Month, so I think Pride Month related a little bit, but we attended a number of events. One of them was the painting of the crossroad in front of the Stonewall Monument, crossing Sheridan Square. The governor also signed legislation to rename the Christopher Street station to Christopher Street and Stonewall Monument instead of Sheridan Square now. And then we were invited to speak. Deborah spoke at the grand opening of the Stonewall monument, which was June 28th. And the event, I don't know if anybody's heard about it, because President Biden was in it, and a number of celebrities, including Mr. John, and the governor. So Deborah actually got to speak and give a speech, and part of that speech is actually in this report. So if you want to pick one up, there's some copies over there. Thank you. That is my time.
Anybody have any questions for Roy?
No, no.
Eric?
Yes.
New.
Would Assemblymember Glick support legislation prohibiting homeless shelters within
You
1,300
got it.
feet from a school?
You gotta wait and ask the assembly member.
But tonight, I'm going to bring up to her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And maybe I can, no, that's pretty good.
Love that.
I forgot to bring me my cards, but if you pick up one of these, my email's at the bottom.
Okay.
They also have it, so.
And if you have joined us online, there'll be a link to the materials and assembly member Glick's report, and all the contact details are there as well. All right. All righty, awesome. Now we're gonna move to Max from Christopher Marte's office. Max, you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi,
Can you hear
Max.
me? Hey, everyone. So I'll start with, the topic of the night, and talk about 320 Pearl Street. I can't see who's still there, but I think I know I've spoken to a lot of people who spoke tonight. And so we want to reiterate, we are fully in agreement with the community and the community board that this is not the right location for a safe haven. The council member has been talking with the administration, with the mayor's office. We're trying to get, changes made, whether it's turning this into a family shelter for families with children or something else, whatever that might be. And so, what we do know is that conversations are happening in City Hall, They do know about this, on the higher level staff, I have met about this. And so, again, we don't have a specific update we can share yet, but we're hoping to get some more concrete things from the mayor's office shortly. And then, as soon as we hear something, we'll make sure everybody knows. I would, I'll kind of answer the question before I get asked it around kind of legislation. I would say, kind of to echo a lot of what Assemblymember Lee said, we don't believe, and the council member doesn't believe legislation is the way out of this. Just timeline wise, right off the bat, it would take us anywhere from 3 to 6 months at least to get a bill drafted. And then, introduced past, that's, we're talking a year plus. Again, that would not help in this situation. And then also just to echo what the other, elected officials have said, every neighborhood in the city is different. Every shelter is different. To try and create a blanket ban on the shelters near certain schools is just, there's so many nuances that we just don't feel that that's an appropriate legislation. I'll on that. And I will just say, again, the way to address these things is for the community to keep putting on the pressure on City Hall, I know people have said they're not hearing responses, they're not getting a response, but we know they are getting it and they are feeling the pressure, even if they're not responding to you all. That's why we know, that's why they're answering the phone calls when the council member, when the assembly member, when the senator calls. It's because they're getting, hundreds, thousands of emails about it. And that's why they're having these conversations. So really putting on the pressure on City Hall is how we can get some changes here. So that's that. And then moving on to some, quicker updates. So the council member joined disability rights advocates at City Hall to rally for Disability Pride Month, just to call for increased accessibility throughout the city, especially in our subways and our schools. And also, we've received a lot of complaints about the street safety on West Street, specifically the bike lane near, I think it's on Chamber and West near the schools. And so the council member, along with Assembly Member Charles Fall, the state DOT and the city DOT did a walkthrough with residents on the bike lane on West Street to kind of go over the safety issues there. And it sounds like, we have some good next steps to try and, increase pedestrian safety, especially by the school crossing by Chamber and Warren. And then just lastly, City of Yes, we had our town hall this month. Over 200 people came to a virtual town hall in City of Yes, which is pretty incredible that many people showed up for some pretty wonky stuff that, most people don't understand. And so, thank everyone for coming. And, I think it's a really good step, to make sure that we get a plan that actually addresses the needs of our city. And then, so then on City of Yes, lastly, the council member has been working really closely on this, working with community boards, colleagues in the council, to understand what's actually being proposed and the potential dangers and specific modifications that, we believe would ensure that health, safety, and quality of life are protected. And so, we were really successful with the economic opportunity plan. Most of the council members' recommendations were included in the plan by the final vote. And so we're hoping to get similar results with housing opportunity. As you all know, right, we've attended, all the CB1 meetings on the subject. The council members met with Department of City Planning, Council Land Use. He testified at the City Planning Commission's public hearing, at the info session I mentioned, and he's released a lot of materials laying out kind of his positions and our concerns and proposed modifications. And so just to kind of give a broad overview of what the council members' priorities are in City of Yes. So first, deepening mandatory affordable housing, requiring affordability in NYCHA campuses and in conversions, maintaining requirements for family size units in construction, reining in changes to height, yard and building distance regulations. So yeah, we'll continue to meet with DCP, but right now the council member is a no unless significant improvements are made, and the council member encourages community boards to do the same. We saw how much we can change with economic opportunity, but these things only come when we demand it. And so again, feel free, I can't answer as many questions on City of Yes, but if you call our office, you can speak with Connor, our Director of Land Use, who can answer any questions or concerns anyone has. And yeah, with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay. I'll call on everybody. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. I have one for you. Hey, Max. Nice to chat with you. One of the things that came out in the media was about the battery storage locations that are going to be now approved and rolled out onto sidewalks through New York City. So I just want to have a couple conversations. I think the conversations that are really important to have for Community Board 1, and I know Betty will probably take this up. It seems, although 2.5% of the city has narrow streets as defined by DOT, the majority of streets, when you take a look at the map of Lower Manhattan, are very, very narrow due to the historic nature. And yet there are variances being given by the Department of Transportation, which is supposed to safeguard our pedestrian and safety and traffic and everything with it, that variances that normally on a 10-foot width you don't need, you can have 8 foot. And we're talking for all kinds of different things. Then the next thing that comes is now there's storage lockers. So I wonder where the storage lockers are going to go. Again, on the sidewalks and potentially the narrow areas, and variances will be given for that. So at what point does New York City say pedestrians have priority on the sidewalks? Period. If you're a business, you put your stuff back in. We want to share the sidewalk? Fine, let's make the sidewalk wide enough. But why are we looking at putting things like bicycle charging changes on the sidewalk, which is supposed to be for pedestrians, versus putting a kiosk style thing on the traffic way? And yes, we can argue about losing parking spots all you want, but you're protecting the pedestrians on the sidewalk. Why isn't it a kiosk off the curb versus something that's on the curb? I don't understand that the expectation is that the electric bike is going to drive to the sidewalk, stop, go walk over with their battery and come back. Why aren't we just making it easier for everybody and putting those kinds of charging stations in the right of way there in the traffic lane or on the edge? Why is it up against the building? Why are we always compromising on the pedestrian thoroughfares? And for us, when we look at the streets in CB1, I'm clearly not talking about the streets that are like huge. I'm talking about the more narrow ones. Right. And so I would challenge the council member who has 3 districts with a lot of the narrow streets in New York to maybe start a working group and have those dialogues and conversations. Are we changing what is acceptable for ClearPath overall in the city on narrow streets? How is FDNY involved in variances to what is allowable for emergency vehicles to allow for roadbed? Like, these are questions that we have that I see that happens above the community board level. So I'm asking city council to kind of.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no, those are all good questions. Yeah, again, I I'd only seen the headlines about the program, so I didn't realize, I don't know all the details, but I'll definitely bring that back to the council member. And I think, figuring out, right, getting the community boards in a working group and getting the people, right, who make those decisions, in those meetings as well. So yeah, we'll definitely flag that for the council member, and we can be in touch on that and how to get something started there.
I mean, I love the fact that they're gonna have charging stations available. We all want charging stations,
Right.
we want safety, but I'd also like safe pedestrian sidewalks.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, definitely. Yeah. Especially if you're going to expect everyone to ride their bike onto the sidewalk to get there, we got to figure something out there.
Thank you. All right, and with that, thank you, Max. I see no hands in the room or online. We're gonna go to our treasurer's report for Mariama James.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can somebody put the slide up? Where is Mariama?
Hey, I'm here. Sorry.
There you go.
Tammy?
Yep.
Oh, I'm here. Andrew.
Oh, Andrew, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Hi, Andrew Chang, from the
Hey.
borough president. Go for it. Sorry, Andrew.
Yes, no problem. It's Andrew Chang from the Manhattan Borough President's Office. I'll be brief. First off, I want to thank you, Tammy, for joining us at our Manhattan Borough Board meeting earlier this month, where we took a vote on the City of Yes for housing opportunity. And the Borough President's recommendation regarding City of Yes for housing is on our website. So please take a look on the website. Secondly, we're having a Dominican Heritage Month celebration on August 1st, Thursday, August 1st. If you would like to attend, please let me know. I can send you more information. We're also hosting a procurement fair alongside the MWBE on Friday, August 9th. This will be an opportunity for small businesses to connect with city agencies for contracting opportunities. And, we have a lot of summer, as I mentioned last time, we have a lot of summer events, tabling events, parades that we're participating in, including the National Dominican Day Parade on August 11th and the African American Day Parade on September 15th. If you all would like to march with us or table with us at street events and festivals, please let me know. And that's my report for this evening. Thank you so much.
So Andrew, thank you very much. I will say, and I will repeat, as I said at the emergency borough board that was held, my vote was provisional pending our full board. So if there's any changes, I've already alerted Eric that I would relay those to him. And with that note, that's my only comment. Does anybody have any? Hearing nothing for Andrew. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you for the lovely space, and we'll see you next month.
No, we'll see you in September.
Okay. All right, awesome. So again, Mariama's treasurer report. Go for it.
Okay, so June 30th was our fiscal year end. This is the report on that. As usual, the office staff and everybody was very good about spending the budget, and we had money left over at the end. Only thing that's different is that this year there was a new rule that disallowed us from rolling over that extra money, which is around $6,000, into the next fiscal year. So we kind of lost that.
That's a bit of a glitch.
It's not happening that long.
Where does it go?
Back to the city.
Did it?
Oh. Go back.
We should have had a party.
Oh, did it go back to the city?
No, let me clarify that, I apologize. In order for us to, we only allow a maximum of 50,000 and get a rollover from personal services, because we already rolled over 50,000, we lost 6,000 in personal services, so that go back to the city.
Could we have gotten sushi instead of pizza?
Okay, any?
Expectation of a new rule disallowing us from rolling all the money over. We're about to do that, now there's a limit.
Ask if you.
So we lost the 6. Any other questions?
Pat and then Jared.
Just out of curiosity, what are personal services?
Staff. If you, right, if you remember, sorry, Zach, we did not have Zach until mid-October last year, so again, yeah.
It's crazy.
Zach could have got a bonus.
Yeah, right.
He got one when he got hired. Zach, Jared.
How do we avoid having an excess next year that goes back to say?
Trust me, we won't have an excess next year that goes
So,
back.
like, before, we used to have an excess and it would be good because we could roll it over into the next year.
Right.
Right? The next fiscal year. It's only this year that they've said, we're putting a cap on the amount that can be rolled over. That cap is 50,000, you've already rolled that over, you can't roll any more over, so that's why we lost the 6.
Right.
wasn't-
How do we spend it?
So it wouldn't happen on a consistent basis. In the past, we're happy to roll over money, we could use that in the next budget, or we could build. We can't do that the same way.
Just to be a little clear, it's not a rollover, it's a change of use. So we can change it, we can't actually roll over any money. They don't let us roll over any money except for the street fair, which we can roll over because that's ours. But we could only change a maximum from personnel to our regular budget in 1 year, from one budget line to another.
For our purposes, previously, we used to be able to continue to use it, and we can't anymore.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Mariama?
I'm working with that and all the demons are fighting with us. Going back to old meeting to discuss that because there wasn't, as Mariana said, a cap before 50,000. So if a community board had an excess, $20,000 because they was an employee and you gave them a max of 50 they could only use, then they automatically use that 20, give it back to the city, which most of the DMs felt, correct me if I'm wrong, that because you were in that meeting, that it was outrageous that they would lose that kind of money. So I think they're going to be fighting with going to office for next year.
Perfect.
Because it's a surprise, Gary. So that's why, we can't plan for surprises. But we know better now.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for Mariama? Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Mariama. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Zach. Take it away for your district manager's report.
Okay, just want to reiterate, there's some new faces in the office for the summer. A lot of you have seen Charlotte Newman, who's done tech on some of the meetings. Pranay Bonagiri is helping with our
Go ahead and wait.
moving over our data to Airtable. And Callista Beseliu is from Department of Aging, a senior getting back into work program through Department of Aging. She's not here. She's only in the office in the daytime for those roles. But Pranay is here right next to me, so I want to introduce you all to him, and he is going to say a few words because part of my job is to mentor them a little and put them into uncomfortable situations impromptu. So, Pranay.
Hi everyone, I'm Pranay Bonagiri. I'm from India. I'm currently here doing my master's in business administration at Pace University. I'm thankful to Zach and all of you guys to give me this opportunity to work along with you. I will try to help my level best in whatever ways I can.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you'll all be happy to know we have tortured him with meetings already this week. All right.
Thank you. Next slide. So, project moving forward is the website redesign. Working with Beta NYC, we presented to the executive committee. There is the presentation there if anyone wants to see it. Just flashing through things that we'll be doing. Now we're mapping out the new content, and then we'll be building out. We're having OTI build out the site hopefully next month. And Pranay is focusing on getting all of the resolutions into Airtable so they will be databased and accessible and searchable. And lastly, we have a feedback slide on the very next slide to give feedback for what you're thinking, how you see improvements that could be made to the website. You are all super users. You use the website probably more than anybody, and you have very specific uses for the website, whether you're looking at the calendar, whether you're looking for resolutions, whether whether you use it at all. I see you chuckling over there. So feel free to give feedback. We want to make it better for all of you. Okay, next slide. Okay, so in the last executive committee, some questions came up about a couple of issues in the public space. Seasonal restaurant vestibules and garbage enclosures by also by restaurants. Department of Buildings, which is slightly obscured in that slide, is committed to come to our September meeting to talk specifically about the rules for seasonal restaurant vestibules. And we're trying to get a commitment from DSNY. They thought they might be able to come tonight. I don't know if they're online. If they are, please raise your hand to comment on the garbage enclosures. But we'll look to have them also in September. Next slide.
Which meeting are they coming to? Full board?
Full board at this point, but that
Yeah.
is up for.
We've asked, I mean, it touches so much of everything that we've asked for them to come and talk here, because while we can talk about containerized garbage and quality of life, it's also about sidewalk space and how that relates to outdoor dining. And so my feeling is once you get past 3 committees, if it either goes to exec or full board for just at least a quick presentation.
What's going on? Yeah, let's just close the view caption highlights one. You just touch the X, it doesn't turn it off. No, I don't want to see that name even.
What are we?
Oh, the name, please, no, it's all right, I know the name, but we closed it.
I think we have to do it from the screen sometime.
Tammy, it's you that has to close with the caption.
Can she do it on
So
her
that
little
little
box?
box those view captions.
I'll just.
I'll
continue
figure it.
to try to fix it later.
We'll figure it.
So national, some upcoming events, National Night Out, as you heard, is August 6th. John had announced his downtown older adults picnic. And just something to flag, the Trump sentencing is September 18th, and police department said we should really expect much heightened security for that.
Okay, next.
No.
All right,
Zach,
keep going. Next
and I have a
slide.
question.
Oops.
Zach, how do you define older adults?
I defer to the event.
Just under.
Well, we,
It says on the chart.
60 and old.
I feel discriminated against.
You know, they didn't like the word
Senior, right, that's what I was
So they
wondering. when I
come
saw
up with
this.
another word.
I think older adult.
Older adult.
Okay, yeah, I tell you what, y'all can negotiate whatever you want in any committee you want, but let's just move on, all right?
Yeah, here it is.
If we're gonna get out of here
I
on
have that, okay.
anywhere near a normal thing, let's just keep rolling. Okay, that's okay. July thankfully was nowhere near as busy in terms of me having to go places and do things. Thank you for those who were very patient and kind while I had eye surgery and was really wobbly. This is kind of where we've been and what we've been doing. I got the honor of going to a Harbor School graduation, which was a ton of fun out on the island, only because a dear friend's daughter was there, but I thought it was really cool to see how they use the space. I do think in one of our committees, we need to take up the issue of Wi-Fi on the island because there isn't any. And so where I'm trying to get phone calls and there was no cell service or anything. I mean, it's kind of like a pro and con, but we should have a discussion about that at some point. Not outside, where the graduation and everything was, yeah. You can get Wi-Fi in the school from the school, but it's not great from what I heard from the school as well. That beautiful pink area, for those who don't recognize it, is actually the Battery Maritime Building as you pull in off the Governor's Island Ferry coming back in, and part of the area that EDC and the city has decided that should be walled off for resiliency versus other interesting options that they have, for example, like they use in Europe, like locks or other things. So just a comment, and it's been a great month, so let's keep going. Oh, I will mention, there's a Chinatown Jail Working Group. Alice is on it for CB1. Zach and I are back up on there. Some of the local community is on there as well. That'll be looking at the impacts on the community environmentally and holistically. So that has been formed and they had their first meeting July 17th. Zach and I did a walkthrough with NYPD and Alice, and the next walkthrough will be Pat and I for the battery, for the ticket sellers. That was an interesting one. And then city has reached out because of their lack of being able to have the POPs accessible to the public due to protests. So we chatted with them about opportunities and, you know, how we could help and connecting them back over to the folks over at IPN, which I'll talk to John about. Next slide. Yeah, we may need an executive meeting in August. I know, if you're on the executive committee, I'm sorry to say this, but the deadline for outdoor dining applications is August 3rd. We do have a robust list of people. We know there are 14 in the pipeline thus far before the deadline, and they figure a lot of people will. I don't control the timeline, folks. When it comes, it comes. And so we're going to try and bunch any that we get so we do one meeting in August. Otherwise, you have nothing to say. We have August 6th, National Night Out. We hope to see you there. We'll send flyers. And then we don't have notice yet, but I'm sure everybody saw in the media, a regional slow zone is planned for Lower Manhattan that will reduce legally permitted speeds south of Canal, depending on the area, to 10 or 20 miles per hour.
10, really?
Correct.
That's
So-
gonna be faster than it goes over.
Well, y'all can complain as much as you want about like, it doesn't move that fast now. It doesn't move that. Driving at 1 o'clock in the morning is not the same as 1 in the afternoon. Weekends are different than weekdays. This is an overall regional slow zone. As soon as we get notification, we'll have presentation because then we will have a 60-day comment period. And according to the city and state, it will be in place latest end of the year or Q1. So keep that in
Big
mind.
signs everywhere,
Yep.
right?
Staff vacations in August. Please be patient and try again. Enjoy an afternoon stroll around the neighborhood. Try the next day. Next slide. Enjoy the break. See the sights. Just keep in mind, there may be times that there is one person in the office. They may be an intern. And they may not know everything that you know or everything they need to know. I do not intend to answer my phone every day in August either. And I'll be away as well. And Alice will be away. Most people are away here and there. So be patient, be kind, and enjoy your summers. And with that, I'm going to say we have 3 huge resolutions ahead of us. Okay, the amount of work that has gone into the land use one, the amount of time is insane. There's a lot of dialogue that's been had before, during, and after committee. And the same thing with the resiliency stuff. Please do not let perfect be the enemy of good and understand that we do not want to be here till 11 o'clock at night. So with that, let's go run through executive committee. Tunnel to towers. I would like to take all 3 of these resolutions together. The first one is the tunnel to towers. Second is 130 West Broadway, which is a sidewalk cafe for Sushi of Gari. And the third one is a ratification of what we already voted on in exec, which was our public comment to the SLA. Okay, if I can take them all, well, that is my suggestion, but I need a motion from the floor. I can't make it. Okay, so with all that, if you were not here for the first vote, AKA Joel, who was not here for the first one?
I see.
All right, if you are here, you must say your name audibly to be counted for the record. So knowing we're going to vote by affirmation, are there any no's to any of these 3 resolutions? Holman is a no on the public comment. Fine.
On the ratification?
Yeah. Okay. Joel, I need you to audibly vote, please.
I vote yes.
Copel votes yes. Thank you. Are there any
Chairman votes yes.
Oh, hey, Bruce. Good to see you.
I chatted, I'm upstate, I couldn't get on.
I
internet
don't
for-
need to hear. Don't need
Okay, okay.
Bruce, Bruce, quiet, quiet.
I am quiet.
Done, okay. Capel and Airman, fine. Okay, all right. That was oppositions. Are there any abstentions or any recusals on any of the three?
Blank abstains on 3.
Okay, perfect. With no other comments, motion carries. The website, just so chairs are aware, is also going to make it easier to access information, because what we're going to start to move forward as we get all of the back stuff online is enable that if you have a topic, let's just use 130 West Broadway as an example, you would be able to go on the website and quickly pull up any resolution we passed on 130 individually without having it packaged with 12 others. So that's the goal. All right. Next committee. Thank you.
Okay,
Patrick.
all right, everybody. Thank you. Hope everybody's had a chance to read the 11-page resolution and all the other stuff that went along with it. Sorry that went out late. That's not the office's fault. It's mine. I just had a very busy month with work and trying to get this thing all put together after our marathon meeting earlier in the month. Put me a little bit behind, but assume everyone has had a chance at least to follow along a little bit. I've mentioned in our prior meetings, this is the part of the mayor's City of Yes initiative, and this is the third of 3 separate citywide text amendment proposals. This one is called Housing Opportunity, and it's really meant to, as the applicant puts it, build a little bit of housing everywhere in the city. So it contains affordable housing components. It also contains changes to the zoning resolution all across the board in terms of residential housing components. With the help of George Janes, our land use consultant, and trust me, folks, we could not have done this without George's help. We arrived at a resolution after an almost 4-hour meeting earlier this month of the land use committee. So the application, the citywide zoning text amendment, contains 15 separate proposals. That's how they're bundled. It's 1,200 and something pages of different line item changes to the zoning resolution, but it's encapsulated within these 15 proposals. So the resolution and George's very helpful memo sort of follows along with those 15 buckets. The committee went through each and every one of these proposals. We debated each and every aspect of each of these proposals, and we came to a decision on each of them as we went through. Toward the end of the meeting, as we realized, we liked a lot of what the citywide zoning text amendment proposes. Certainly, we recognize there's a housing crisis, and we want to see more housing, particularly affordable housing, built in New York City. We realized at the end of the meeting, though, that because we spent so much time with each of these proposals, we had so many questions. We had conditions on at least a dozen of these that someone proposed, maybe this really should be a no with conditions. But we'd already gone through and sort of the sense of the committee was a lot of these were positive and they were yes with conditions. But as I thought about it more after the committee meeting, I drafted this resolution to reflect the sense of the committee, which we actually voted on in the committee. But I've thought a lot about it since then, and I've gone back and I've looked at the last time we had a citywide zoning text amendment aimed at housing. So those of you who were here 9 years ago in 2015, we had the zoning for quality and affordability and the mandatory inclusionary housing, ZQA and MIH. We voted two resolutions and voted on those in November of 2015. Both of those resolutions we liked more affordable housing. We liked changes to the zoning resolution to try to build more housing, but we didn't like the proposal overall because we thought that there were modifications that needed to be made. And so we were a no with conditions on each of those. So I would suggest that the resolution that we have tonight, that for those where we have yes with modifications, we probably should change that to a no with modifications. And to those where the committee was a full yes, again, this reflects the sense of the committee, but I think the overall feeling of the committee was that while we like the idea, we like these things, we probably want to approach this as a no with conditions. It sounds silly. What's the difference between a yes with conditions and a no with conditions? I always sort of use this analogy. It's like telling your teenager, yeah, you can take the car if you clean your room, et cetera. That's a yes with conditions.
Yeah.
But if you tell your teenager, no, you're not taking that car unless your homework's done, your bed's made, your room's clean, it sends a different message. It's effectively the same thing, but it sends a very different message. And I think historically, this community board has been more, when approaching these kinds of citywide text amendments, more of a no with conditions. Because we want to make sure that our conditions, our requests for modifications are really being heard.
Are you calling us teenagers? I'm just
Yeah,
checking.
City.
The city, yeah.
City, maybe. So, hang on just one second. So, that's how I would propose that we approach it. It'll require a formal motion to amend it. I can lay out exactly what I think that should look like if somebody wants to make that motion.
Because it doesn't say here.
But before we do that,
Questions, yeah.
let's have questions sort of on the proposal. Joe, I saw your hand up first, and then why don't we just go around clockwise?
So I just want to understand, no with conditions is no unless these conditions are met?
Correct. Clean your room or you can't drive the car.
Yes.
Well, it could be a positive thing too in a way, but no, okay, well.
He's right.
Anyway.
Hold on, Jess, then Joe.
First of all, that's what yes with condition means. It means, yes, we support this only if you do this. I don't know.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Not according to
home.
Big difference.
It's effectively.
If there are conditions on the no, then you're saying conditionally saying no. It doesn't make sense. So.
No.
No.
No, unless. So the way that you're.
That's what a
But what's the other thing?
Yes, so long as. It's the same thing, guys, it's the same thing.
It's-
Yes, so long as, and no one.
I'm saying.
It's about the message that it sends and the time that it comes.
I also want to say there was a discussion in committee about this. There were hours and hours of debate about all these proposals. There was largely support for these.
I know, great.
Like these proposals.
Well, ask the committee then, because if you've got the committee chair who's saying, once he reviewed the tape, he's looked at the history, and he's saying, this is how he feels the committee was speaking, then we'll ask, have more people from the committee. I hear what you're saying. There is a specific nuance. However, I mean, I'm gonna look at this and say, one of the strongest things that we had to say in here was that the UAP had to be mandatory. It wasn't optional. That is a no unless. That can't be a yes, because the way that they have it crafted is it's optional. We're not saying yes that we want that. What we said in the meeting and on that topic was, no, we don't want it optional. We want it mandatory. No.
Jeff, let me just say, no, Jeff sat through the 4-hour meeting, so credit to him. And he's not wrong. As we went through the various proposals, many of them were a yes or a yes with conditions. But toward the end of the meeting, and I think we're all a little leery-eyed and weary, the suggestion was made, why aren't we doing this really as a no with conditions? That suggestion never really went anywhere. And so this resolution is drafted as it came out of the committee, which is on most of these proposals, a yes or yes with conditions. I'm suggesting that given our history, the way we've handled citywide zoning testing, it would probably be better. And I think it would really reflect the overall sense that I felt the committee was expressing is, well, we like the proposal, we like the ideas, we like these things. We want to be careful to make sure that our conditions are really heard. And that's why I'm suggesting that. Jill and then Richard. Sorry, Jeff, I skipped you. I apologize. Yeah, Jeff.
I'm a little, maybe a policy wonk understands that no with conditions means we really like it, but we want them to change. But I think most people would understand no with conditions, meaning that we're fundamentally negative, but we'll change our mind if you do X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
And I wasn't in the committee or the meetings, but I feel very strongly that housing needs to be built, including market housing. One of the reasons the market rents are so high is there's a shortage of market housing. And definitely there needs to be affordable housing, but I think there needs to be housing built. And at least speaking for myself, I think changes in zoning that are designed to increase the amount of housing built, as well as the amount of affordable housing built, but not only affordable housing, is a good thing for the city, and a good thing for the country. And unless we don't think these changes are in that direction, I would say yes with conditions, as opposed to no with, no with conditions plays into the stereotype about community boards, which we're the ones that are stopping the housing. We're the ones that say not in our backyards. We're the ones who want to keep things the way they are. I mean, that's the reputation that community boards have. We see it in the press, you hear it out of the mayor. And I think a no with conditions just plays into that stereotype. But I'll defer to the committee because I wasn't sitting there and you guys did a huge amount of work. And if you think that even though it sounds terrible, it will really be understood as very supportive, I would suggest a yes with conditions unless there's a particular thing that you feel that is fundamentally negative. So you want to say no to it.
As I address this bigger issue.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter about stereotypes because right is right and wrong is wrong. And what this is, without mandatory housing, affordable housing is a no. It is, nobody built anything but luxury housing, okay? So if you don't include affordability,
It's not
why
gonna
is
happen.
the price of super luxury housing is going to go down? Do you think the new IPN 83 super luxury, all the facilities you can imagine, is going to be affordable? No, because they can get this, because it is absolutely a no, unless there is mandatory affordable housing, because it's just a handout to luxury developers. Correct.
Yeah, correct. Right.
Keep going.
Well, Dr. Jared's out of the corner of my eye. I know you've
Keep-
been
keep
waiting
it-
very patiently, Richard.
Yeah, I was just gonna add on to what Trent was saying, just about, look at a lot of the votes that came forward across.
Can't hear you.
You actually need to come closer because from the back of the room, you can't be heard and it's not fair.
No, I was gonna say, if you look at in the this going in the context of what some of the other community boards around the city have done, there is a dividing line between a lot of the denser neighborhoods such as ours and some of the less dense neighborhoods. It's becoming a conversation about not in my backyard versus yes in my backyard. And this is a district that desperately needs it. So I tend to agree with you. Although I agree with you.
We need affordable housing.
I was just about to say,
Need luxury.
I fully agree with you as well, that affordability is, don't be more of a small district.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
Richard. you go back.
Yeah, so,
Second is amendment, I mean.
to clarify, I think what happened at the committee, or let's to add on to what you were saying, Patrick. At the end of the committee, there was the question raised as to whether we make this a yes or a no. But the reality was we never took a vote on that. What we did was we voted on each of the individual ones, and then you in your original interpretation said, well, maybe that sounds like a yes with conditions versus a no, but we as a committee did not address that. And I think, in fact, as a community board, we can address the overall, we can address individual ones, which we have, but we also must make, I think, a judgment or a decision or a statement about the overall proposal. And there I totally agree, and I would second your amendment that says this is a no with conditions. And the reason for that.
A no unless.
A no unless, sorry. And the reason for that is for everything that everyone's been saying here, of course, but just go back to what we said at the committee. Every single one of the issues of the concerns that we had to do with affordable housing. There was no belief, utter skepticism that the voluntary program that's built into this will generate any meaningful amount of affordable housing in our community, What it might do in other communities, we cannot say. It might work, it might be good, it might do wonderful things, but in our community, it was clearly stated, our consultants stated it, most of the people around the table stated it, UAP will not work in our community. One very important reason it will not work, our community generates condo luxury development. There is no financial incentive out there for condo development to generate affordable housing. UAP will never be taken up. It hasn't been taken up before in our kind of neighborhoods. It will not be taken up now. UAP is the voluntary program. There needs to be affordable housing. I have actually drafted some language that might be helpful for this, but there's one or two other things that I think are important to mention that we actually never discussed. That is, one of them is that the city of Yes purports to want to generate some housing everywhere. A little housing in every neighborhood. Sounds wonderful. And I think everyone around this table would support that. Some housing everywhere. No question about it. We would want housing. We need more housing here. Market rate housing, yes. Affordable housing, absolutely. But nothing in this plan requires that everything be accepted in the low density, across the low density zones and the high density zones. And it's very possible that, I don't know what's going on in the other community boards, but it's very possible that all the changes proposed for the low density zones get rejected. And what's left are those for the high density zones. So one thing that I would propose is that we have a no here unless there's broad consensus, there's broad agreement, acceptance of the proposals in both the low density and the high density zones. So that in fact, the city of Yes objective of housing everywhere, some amount of housing is accepted as part of its plan. So I have a little bit of language for that as well.
So let me ask you to hold that,
I
and
will.
why don't we do this? If there are going to be amendments, just I want to make sure everybody has a chance to go around and be heard, all the issues and the specifics, that we can kind of take all the motions to amend it at one time, and I appreciate you coming up with some language, Richard, that's very helpful. Yeah, Mitch?
Well, first of all, very good job, Patrick, and for the record, I agree with Joe. I wanted to just bring up a point and question, the movement about number 8, which you approved. On paper, it looks good where that they can, ensure like before you couldn't have 10 units. And in 2016, the square footage was lower than 680 and the square feet. And now the new rule is supporting it could go to 325 square feet. What I'm worried about is that landlords, unscrupulous landlords could use that as a loophole, the way they did in the 70s and 80s with the SRO hotels, which I'm very familiar with as they were in my neighborhood, and I actually had to stay in one for a couple of weeks, where they could just cut in half a studio and have, like make more boxes then to increase their profit. And it's kind of, we want more, but we want some humane housing. And that's the only point that, like I said, on paper, it looks okay, but when you really think about it, I'm just a little worried about that. I was wondering what you or anybody else thought about that.
I know it was discussed, and specifically the SRO point. I cannot for the life of me remember what the answer was.
Because they would like, they wouldn't be called SROs, but a studio that's tiny anyway, to give a person or a couple some dignity with their own bathroom. And then the landlord sees that instead of charging $800 a month for that, I can get $500 each for a box and a box.
Right.
So that's one thing, maybe approve with like a no with conditions, or however you do it with conditions on something like that, then maybe.
So if you have a specific condition of proposal, that's one thing. I can, what I'm remembering about our discussion at the committee level, there were a number of people who, believe it or not, really liked the idea of small apartments.
They have experience with that.
Hold on.
I get it. 1.2, but they found it quaint.
Let him reply.
But anyway, if you have a specific condition proposed, when we get to the amendment parts, let's deal with it then. But what I would suggest is that so that's one of those that's on here as approved. So what I would ultimately be suggesting is that we modify that to I guess a disapprove with conditions or no unless, And then it also be subject to, because what are the conditions, right? Subject to the general comments and conditions like, for example, 1 and 2 are. And we spent a lot of time going over what those are and see them earlier and therefore be resolved part of the resolution. So, but we can add specific modifications for each of the proposals. That's the way that the board wants it out. Right?
Betty has her hand up in the back.
Netta did, Mariama did, and then Netta did, and then Betty. Sorry, I'm just trying to go. Right there.
To, agree with Jill and Richard and second, third, or fourth, or whatever. Proposal to include some of those for a couple of reasons. I think for one thing, we have to give our elected officials like wiggle room to be able to negotiate on our behalf. That's one thing. If you just say yes to everything, and there's nothing for them to do. If they feel there's something for them to do, that of which we're unaware, they'll be unable because they don't have their community behind them. That's one thing. The second thing is, you guys know how crazy it makes me when people misuse the term 9/11 survivor. Because it's defined under that law differently as the word survivor is defined in Webster's, right? They mean different things. And the same is true about supply and demand. And it really irks me because that's my niche, right? My formal education is in accounting and manufacturing management, which is all about producing something to fit a need. Supply and demand is very specific. It's what is needed, is what we're doing. So to just build housing, it's market rate, it's luxury, when there are not people in the streets clamoring for luxury housing, is not meeting a need. The need is for affordable housing. So if we don't demand that be included, we're really missing an opportunity for another 100 years or so. So I think we better get this right while we can. That's my wish.
Got it?
I just feel that I think that the minimum size of the
Right, so there was, that was the answer, I think specifically on the SRO, this is that building code also has an interplay here. Betty.
As a senior, I'm aware of many people who are specifically looking for this kind of accommodation. Why? Because they don't have the money or the physical ability to maintain a bigger space, they don't need a bigger space. And so they're looking for that, and there is availability, not as much as they'd like. And in fact, it's not accessible enough for wheelchairs and other equipment that they need. So their demands wouldn't be for more space, it's more usable arrangement of the space to make it easier to live in. So I don't want to get down to we become the evil by limiting options. There really are needed there people. That's not us. I wouldn't have said this when I was 20 or 30 years younger and nothing either. But don't forget, not everybody is welcome to it.
Here, well said.
Justine.
I'm gonna say what Mariama said, what Jill said, what Richard said.
Like brother. Jason, then Jess for a second.
Can we move on to the people who had some really nice comments to get into your resolution? I
Yes.
think almost.
Once we. I like everybody in that.
So
Tammy and then Justin.
I want to take up the first part of what Richard said. I think that there is a way that we can find some middle ground here, that we can say both yes and no, right? There's a deny unless, and some of the big things that we had said, I think you're saying and Richard's saying, and incorporating what Jess is saying to say yes to. There's a way to incorporate all of it. So if you say deny unless, right? Some of the big points that we are saying that the committee said that's in the overall CB1 encourages the applicant to incorporate all zoning changes as part of this proposal mandates for inclusion of affordable housing units as opposed to optional. That's saying that we don't want it unless it mandates it, right?
Mhm.
That's pretty clear in that, right? There's several places there, and I think even under the denies unless, and again, or yes with modifications, you could say, because every one of them is subject to the general comments, and our general comments have to do with community engagement, accessibility and study of infrastructure, right? School fees, public space, et cetera. That's a pretty major, that any future changes or changes to increase housing, requirements for analysis beyond current environmental impact statements on how the proposed would impact infrastructure and the delivery of public services, transportation, public schools. I mean, that's we don't want this unless you can take a look and study this. That doesn't say you have to build new schools, you have to build new transportation, but it does say that when you're looking at this and you do make these changes, that you need to look at the infrastructure, which will do nothing but help the MTA in the long run. No offense, that's what we want, right? To balance that. So I think that there are ways that we can, and when it's district fixes, it was just a straight approval. And that could be said. We, as a board, think that the district fixes have no changes. If we get to that point and that it says no changes. And I think it doesn't necessarily make a difference, but I think if, when you look and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, pardon me for counting, 5, 6, right? And I'm looking at this, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them out of 15 have specific asks, then you have to say to yourself, is this asking for more change or not more change? Right, and that I think is a discussion that we should have.
All right, Jess, and then Jill. I'll hold it. Jill.
So I think it's a bigger issue. When you look at what this is saying about conversion, I personally think conversion should be 40% affordable. They'll come in here, especially this will affect us downtown.
You didn't, that didn't fly. Trust me, we spent about an hour on the percentages.
But percentage in this, saying mandatory, just mandatory affordable housing, that could be 5%. The other thing that is a deal breaker is the landmark air rights. How, please right mind, can you say, I have a building here, so we can build a giant building over there, because I can sell, it's close the
That's the best part of it.
those two items are deal breakers on saying yes as opposed to no. We can put all our qualifications in, but you can't say yes with the landmark air right, derivatives, which is how I think of it, because it's derivative air rights. Yeah, but this is why we should vote no, is what I'm saying. Not that I said no, but I'm saying.
You're saying we should go farther, no modifications, just no, is that what you're saying?
No.
She's saying no on the whole resolution.
No unless.
Right. Most of all,
We are in on that one.
no, overall,
Yeah, but you're supporting.
But yeah,
Okay.
the faults are so big on those two issues alone. that we
I think my question, and that goes to Patrick, is whether you want to go through all 15 individually and then go to a full.
I don't think so. No, it's ridiculous. Oh.
we.
Okay, Patrick, let me.
It's 8:30 already. We've done this as a committee for hours.
So that's 3 months.
This is the resolution. If we want to amend it, let's do that. Brendan?
I just want to throw out there, I was reading an article today, on the other community boards, and most of the ones in Manhattan actually said approve of modification.
No, not true. It's inaccurate. Yeah, try again.
Queens that were.
No, community board 2 is a no, for example, just saying.
I can show the article that there were, it doesn't really make a difference. We have to do what's right for city one, first and foremost.
Alice.
First of all, I want to thank the committee and everybody who worked incredibly hard, particularly Patrick. This is a really difficult thing. I want to thank the council's office, who also worked incredibly hard and helped us a great deal. And it was interesting to learn tonight from Max that in fact, the council member has testified with a no unless. So I do think, and to Mariama's point, there is something to be said for supporting our council members' perspective on this. That said, I certainly support your amendment and the council member. I've been sitting on this board for a long time, and the one thing that we do all agree on is we need more affordable housing. It has appeared in 1,000,001 ways. And here we are, 61 years after the zoning text was made, where we have an opportunity to potentially get it. Why would we not go back to the drawing board ever so slightly? I'm not saying to reinvent the wheel here, and that the Department of City Planning really hears the communities that want to see some sort of mandated affordability, some more real affordability that's built into this new zoning text. And that's really all by a no with unless it's saying, don't go, if we say yes with modifications, it's sort of like business as usual. If you say no, you really got to look at this again. And by the way, it's not just affordability. It's so many things that, I noted just all along the way, the preservation of open space, the creation of open green space, the clarification of how climate change, heat gain, rainproofing is addressed in any of this planning, the preservation of oversight at the CB and Council, the removal of the special permits, the preservation of light air that we fought for in 1961. There are many things here that really need to be looked at and looked at very carefully, not to say it hasn't been done, but we've now looked at it. Let city planning go back to the drawing board, review this, and take into consideration all of the community's review of this. And that is what I think a no with conditions or no with an unless would allow, particularly vis-a-vis affordability. So
I'd
anyway.
be remiss if I didn't echo the thanks to the council member and his office, specifically Connor Allerton, who authored a really helpful memorandum and was there with us as we walk through the dense details of this plan.
So, and I just want to correct what I said to Brendan. While the outer boroughs for the most part were like, ain't no way, not happening. Most of the Manhattan boards are not straightforward favorable. So only 2 that I see, possibly 3, but others are conditional, favorable with conditions, unfavorable with conditions, unfavorable altogether, and then there's only 2 that I see that are favorable. And so everything else has conditions, others do not. Hold on, I'm correcting my commentary. Others that were listed as favorable have not had full board votes yet. So you don't know where it's going.
All right, Susan.
I don't want to repeat everything Alice said. I'm in total agreement with her. And I think it has to be a no. And I thank you, Patrick, and the committee. And I really think you did a great job, but I think you're right.
Yes.
I want to address the idea that there's a no affordability aspect to this. One of the things I think that's lost is that this is a zoning resolution that also works in conjunction with other policies. For example, most importantly, the 2 major tax incentives that were passed at the state legislature, 45X, which is for market rate, and 467M, which is for the office conversions. There is no debate amongst housing experts that at least I've seen that this will be the largest affordable housing proposal in the history of this city.
It's a housing proposal. The DCP said very specifically, no. They said a housing proposal that they hope will lead to affordable. It's not a mandate. You can't call it affordable housing if there's no mandate.
Not a mandate, but again, I would love to be able to say to Stephen Ross, you have to put 60% affordable housing in your building.
Oh, maybe you should.
Until the solution comes, that's not happening. Hold on. Cities have tried to implement these sorts of across the board mandates that we're talking about. San Francisco rolled it back because what they found was it restricted housing. Boston rolled it back because it restricted housing. That's what we see. That's the data. There is no data on housing. We can continue that.
We're sitting right here.
We should add.
Guys, please, let Jess finish.
Probably anyone else in this city.
Let's let Jess finish, please.
This. This is one aspect of our housing proposal. There are proposals at the state level to have more direct state intervention into the housing market so that the state can create housing on its own. That could be 100% affordable. We should absolutely support that. But when it comes to a zoning resolution, this is going to be the largest investment in affordable housing and market rate housing in the city's history.
And it's not.
I think it would be great.
I think it's insane to say there's no debate. The more you hear, it's debate. That's insane.
Order. Joe, Justine, everybody, order.
All right.
Jess, you're off the podium. Thank you.
We're gonna call
Joe.
this We're gonna draw this into a close, but what we need to do before we call any questions, please, nobody shout out for the question. 'Cause
Okay.
We gotta get these amendments down, we gotta.
Yeah.
Sure,
did you read
Jim, so I can
I don't know.
figure out
Hands down.
what amendments we're gonna be having.
All right,
So-
so let's do it this way. If you had an amendment that you wanted to suggest or any particular proposal of the 15, please raise your hand. Richard, you go first,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
If you have a proposal amendment, you say mine is for proposal blank or mine is for the
Or
overall.
wherever it is in the resolution,
Yeah.
but what I really
It
need
needs to be clear.
is specific language of the amendment. Ideas and thoughts and all that stuff, they're great, but.
Yeah, we hear you. Yep, yep. Yeah.
So, yes, I have a proposed amendment that begins where we say general comments and conditions applicable to all parts.
Okay.
What page?
Page 8.
Page 8. You will all need to bear with me or take a nap, whichever you prefer. General comments and conditions applicable to all parts of COYHO. CB1 expressly conditions its recommendations on the CBYO text amendment application on the following comments and requested modifications. While CB1 sees merit in a number of the various proposals, albeit most with conditions,
New language.
CB1 must vote no on the overall COYHO zoning text amendment unless the following critical issues are satisfactorily addressed in the final proposal. Bullet 1. CB1 does not accept the premise that any material amount of affordable housing will be developed in our district with the incorporation of without the incorporation of a meaningful mandated affordable housing component. The Volunteer Universal Affordability Preference Program, we believe, is wholly inadequate in our high-density, high-demand, high home ownership district to generate sufficient affordable housing. COYHO must incorporate into all zoning changes as part of this proposal mandates for the inclusion of affordable housing units. Bullet 2. Our district has an extraordinary commercial infrastructure that is ripe for conversion to residential. We have already seen substantial conversions take place with no affordable housing component. We cannot afford to lose more opportunities in this area. Commercial to residential conversions must have a mandatory affordable housing component. As noted below in one of our comments, any public housing campus infill must be 100% affordable. Bullet 4. The overarching objective of COYHO is to produce a little more housing in every neighborhood. Yet the proposal is separated into high-density levels, low and medium high, with no assurance that proposals across all neighborhood densities will be approved. CB1 believes that COYHO, as approved, must incorporate sufficient zoning in city districts such that the objective of producing housing across all neighborhoods be achieved. And then there are a number of bullets beyond that were in the original that I find that we can certainly keep.
So
So you didn't take anything out?
I did not take anything out.
You
do we
modified
keep
one
the original bullets that are in there and modify
Well,
the language?
the original bullet, so the first,
bullet you changed, and the second bullet you changed.
yeah, I think that's right.
As I was following you along, and then you just didn't.
And I did not change the last two.
Okay.
What?
No.
No, for another
Okay.
kid, this housing.
I got you.
Needs to produce housing across the district.
So. Okay, thanks. And Richard, I appreciate that. And I, just so, folks in the room know, the bullet point, the 3 and 4, are a little different. They were something that, a member who I believe is not in the room right now, specifically advocated for successfully around, investing, corresponding capital investments, whenever you have increases in housing. So I want to make sure that that stays in. Okay.
And then I would just also say that by keeping bullet 4 and the individual ones that we have in here, we certainly let them know that there are things in here that we like. And I think that's fine. I think we should.
Right.
Question, just a quick question about the environmental impact. Is that gonna go away or you're keeping that room? But
That's not going away.
So bullet 2 talks about environmental impact.
Two-
Spaces, services. public-
No, that should stay in.
So you basically added 1, sorry, you changed 1 and you added 2 and 3 or something, but then
Yeah.
3, 4, 3.
Replacing bullet 1 was mine. and
Original
then
2 and 3 and 4 was
Two-
single. 4
it was-
is just a.
Right,
just a-
4 is just, right.
But
2 and
2,
3.
3,
Maybe.
and keep.
I think so.
You know what you're
It'd be really wonderful just for words to have something in bold.
Gotcha, that's a style thing.
Yeah.
I like that too. I usually do that
Get
in
that
briefs. and
underlined.
I like that style.
Awesome.
Jess?
Yeah, so I mean, after all that I said in the debate, I actually support most of this, just a couple of small bits.
I love you, Jess. Awesome.
Support most of what I just read, or?
Well,
No.
It's not gonna be perfect, and the conditions.
Remember, do not let perfect be the enemy of good.
Hang on, wait, is it different? Is it commenting on?
I have a couple small things about the actual, the table, so.
The tables,
On UAP,
number 5.
number 5,
Wait, no, hang on, Jess, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you off for a second. What Richard is proposing is an amendment within the general comments.
You got that.
Condition.
It's not challenging them.
I'm not gonna, yeah, I'm not gonna.
I know, but just for
What do
the
you want
sake
to
of good
talk
order, that motion has been made. Is there a second on it? I'd rather. Okay. And then.
Passes you.
Okay, so stop, Justine. Stop. Okay, that motion has been made. The motion has been seconded. We're gonna take a vote on that motion so we can be crisp and clear on that.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna do a vote by affirmation. If you are in opposition to the motion, please call your last name and the vote.
To be clear, this is just a motion to amend, this is a motion to amend, to add and change the languages Richard read it out earlier.
Okay, okay. Hearing no opposition, are there any abstentions? Rossi abstains. Slow down, because our secretary has to get it. Brendan, you gotta back her up on this. Okay, Rossi abstains.
You abstains.
You abstain?
Galloway abstains. And Ford abstains.
Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 abstentions.
Forsberg.
Okay.
Wait, for Rossi, for Galloway.
And you.
You.
You're you.
Are there any recusals? Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, so that amendment passes. Thanks, guys. I really just want to take them one at a time for my own sanity, so sorry, Jeff. Okay, now, you were gonna suggest some.
Yeah, so on 5 for UAP, create a 4th tier option, increasing the affordability band in CD1 to 130% of AMI. Just so, like, we're asking for more subsidies for higher incomes, but only in our district, which I think is a little problematic, just for the message it sends.
It is moderate income housing that we went to. And 130 was the top of one, the bottom of the other. We didn't go into middle. Right,
I
so,
don't disagree necessarily with AMI is a ridiculous calculation. So if you want to go to 130, that's fine, but why not everywhere? Because we can't just say for our district.
So your proposed.
you're taking off CD1.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of funny.
I know.
Okay. Justine?
The reason why, I mean, again, I was there, I listened, I'm not on the committee, but I listened.
Yeah.
The reason why we limited it is because this is what you brought in all across New York City. There are many places in New York City, where that's a ridiculously high number. Whereas in CD1, it's not. And that's what we were kind of trying to parcel it out. And it's almost where every community board and community district needs to weigh in based on their particular economic.
Susan?
Just to answer your question, for someone who developed all
Yes.
this housing, there are plenty of places, even in the poor sections of the Bronx, where it can be, there are people who are very. So I have to do.
Justine?
I have to do agree with Jill I think there should be something about affordability on the lower end, but then we get all tied up in our underwear. So I'm happy with the 130%, and we can all figure out the lower ends, at least 40% should be affordable and blah, blah, blah. But that's something else. And I just wanted to answer that question.
And before I go to Jeff, I just want to explain. We asked for a fourth tier option. That doesn't mean everybody. That means that it allows the developer to find a balance to do some at 130, some at the lowest ends. Maybe he just does two, maybe he or she does just two. Maybe they do 4 tiers, but to give a greater range to be able to support moderate income housing as well. The question on the table that Jess had raised or someone raised was removing the CD1 out of the thing. Jeff.
Make it whole.
I support getting rid of the CD1. I think it just sends the wrong message that we think we are better than everybody else.
Thank you. Before Richard, Bruce had his hand up and I've been ignoring those online. Sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
It's muted.
Bruce, you're delightfully quiet, but you're muted.
How's this?
Yeah.
So in this huge volume of material, there was a comment, and it's just, I'm having so much internet problems here, about the landmarks transfer of air rights that I've been studying, but I cannot figure out the final iteration of that clause.
Okay, Bruce, you have to wait because that's not what we're talking about right now. If you have a comment on CD1 and the 130% that we were talking about in 5 under UAP, then you're on time. If not, I'll call on you when we get back to the other one.
Thank you.
Okay.
So given that we're asking this to be another tier, it can apply or not apply as developers see fit. So it can apply across the entire city. And therefore, if you take out CD1, CB1, or what do we see, CD1, it has no effect. I mean, it's just fine. If it's not applicable in another location, they won't use it. So I think it's perfectly fine to take it out. So I agree with Jess's proposal. What I didn't particularly like, but I'm not proposing to change, was raising the average. But that's.
Right, and that's.
I'm not re-raising that. I'm not re-raising.
Landed the number was.
But taking out CD1, I think has no effect, because it's an additional tier.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
On Justin's question, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, great.
Affirmation? Yeah, everybody says good.
Okay, so that amendment is accepted. I hear no abstentions, no opposals. I will say that we are getting some feedback in the chat from people who are online that they're having a hard time because of the side conversations. I'm trying to allow a little bit of dialogue, but so I'm gonna hope that there's no side chats over there, side chats out the back, or side chats out the door. Let's try and keep it sort of swift, okay?
Okay. Yes.
Motion passes on that.
Language to the amendment from number 8 on the small and shared housing. How do you feel about, because before the building couldn't have all tiny units. So assuming that they can have now all tiny units to have more housing, but making each unit having their own bathroom, so it's not like shared. We're good, like from 680 going down to 500, but not 325, something to take away the loophole from.
Why can't they have some of each in the building then? Some that have their own bathrooms and some that they share bathrooms. That would make it easier.
I'm actually against shared housing. I think each dwelling should have its own kitchen and bathroom. Yeah.
It's expensive.
Even.
Right.
Richard? Having lived in shared housing in yes.
Wait.
Guys, remember what I said, and this is a debate So you just, please be quiet and wait, okay? Thank you very much, my friend. Richard?
Having lived in an SRO, shared housing, early on in my days, coming back from college in New York City, it's an incredibly important different approach, different opportunity for young people, people who have of low means to move into the city, to have a place to live. It's a perfect transition for younger people and others. I think it's a really important thing for us to have that opportunity in the city. So it will really expand the living opportunities that people need and not just have to live, in one particular.
Take up family housing.
And not take up, and then thank you, and not take up family housing and then not articulate on that one.
I want to agree with Richard, but my concern would be taking a unit down from 680, like cutting it in half here, and then charging the same rates, right? For this tiny box now, like putting people in closets, but still charging them $1,000, $2,000, whatever. Is there a way, how can we work around that? How would you prevent that?
It's market driven, Mariama, so there's no.
He's gonna pay $1,000.
Making them that tiny too, then.
That'll definitely be $1,000.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was trying to say, but she said it better.
We can't do.
Jeff?
There are the concerns from the small housing. I mean, I think I've mentioned this in a meeting before. My son won the lottery for some affordable housing in the area. And it was about a 300 square foot unit. And you can't, there's no dignity in living in a 300 square foot unit.
I've lived there for
Maybe
27 years.
Place where 300 square feet is all you get. But I have a concern that if you eliminate the minimum size or have the minimum size, cut it in half, you will find market rate apartments that go for astronomical sums for 300 square feet. I don't think that's an improvement in the city.
Which is, okay.
No, but that's right, but this zoning change simply gets rid of the minimum size requirement.
Right.
And it presumes it's gonna make available SROs or whatever, and maybe it will make them available, but it's also gonna reduce the market rate apartments to these tiny apartments.
Which is what they have said is a goal, to create overall more housing and remove the size limitation so that a smaller building could squeeze more apartments in.
But I feel like we're having two different conversations. Mitch, I think your proposal was with these newly created smaller units, that they be required to have a bathroom and kitchen facility and not a shared facility.
Yeah.
But I'm also hearing
Mine
just
was-
total opposition.
Two different kinds of
Amendment.
small units.
Okay, hold on, all right, there was commentary that, what Patrick is saying, there was commentary heard about the elimination of shared housing while it's an expansion, and then there are other people who have supported shared housing as a preliminary step forward, God bless you. So I think I'm not hearing, as a matter of consensus, a movement to remove the requirement of shared housing. Is that true?
My proposal is to change the approved to a disapproved.
Yeah, which is what you
Disapproved minimum square footage.
Disapprove the reduction of the minimum. I'm good with that.
Yes.
At all?
Disapprove.
Hold, stop, because I'm gonna recommend, before anyone seconds it or says anything, there were very strong advocates for small housing in the room. Rosa being one, so Rosa is speaking.
Against it, but.
I'm seconded.
I said, before we go down the road for second, because you're eliminating, you're asking to take small and shared housing from a full approval to a full no.
That's correct.
Correct.
With all the details that are within.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. A motion has been made to amend number 8 to a disapprove. It's been
And
seconded.
it's been seconded.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference. If it got seconded, we have to call the vote on that.
But
So I just wanted to say I agree with Tammy at this, and I think all of us in the room think at this stage in our lives, we don't want that, but I would second Richard's standpoint. I will just say over and over again, coming to New York is impossible right now for young people.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we understand that, if we don't create something that's, not what we want.
It's not going to be
live
affordable.
ourselves, that shared housing is something that I read in the New York Times about people that have shared kitchens and shared space. I read about the Danish people that do it. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And just because we're not used to it, doesn't mean it won't work. And I think you can make incredible spaces, and, smaller rooms where people have an individual space, and then there's common spaces. Now, I've also read you've got to have, each building is going to work or not will work depending on the people that are there and the management that is taking care of it day to day. But I think we're better off saying, it's just because we don't want it doesn't mean that it shouldn't work. I just think, especially for these old buildings, every bedroom has to have a window, correct? So one of the things they're having is that, when I was reading about the city of Yes and is that hollowing out a middle center is very, very expensive. And that's why a lot of these buildings are too expensive to convert.
Okay.
I understand, but the idea is that in the middle can be a shared space and the bedrooms are on the outside. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what we don't want to eliminate.
But that's not what this is.
That's not
Okay,
what
wait,
this is.
wait. Rosa, then Desi, and then please, let's draw this, yes, it's not-
Correct.
we gotta move.
I'm maybe the only person here who has actually lived for 6 years in a 250.
Oh, no, you're not. I have two, so have I.
And by we, I mean my husband and 2 cats, and we survived the experience. And then when we moved into a 500 square foot apartment where we lived for 10 years, we thought that was like literally the epitome of luxury. My point is that we should at least have these options available for somebody that's new moving into the city, somebody that just graduated and doesn't want to live with mom and dad, somebody who is older and is, be nesting or whatever that term is. We have to available so that people have the choices. We're not forcing anybody into any one particular one of them. But if we eliminate the root of having that exist, that might fit for someone else. And exactly as Wendy saying, if it doesn't fit for you, no one's forcing you into it. We need these options there. And especially if we want to look at being able to live with dignity in our own apartments, then that small size might work for you. But we're not forcing you into it. But let's not take it off the table for someone else who's not you.
So hold on, no. Jesse's next.
I hear what folks are saying, and I think that it's important to have the diversity of housing. I think the concern is that the size won't reflect the rent. I think that's really and there are people who want to live in smaller spaces who don't have a lot. I don't know.
Yes.
But I think that what has continually been an issue for people who have been searching for housing is that there are people who have things that do not fit in a 300 square foot space. And then they have been asked to pay $1,500, $1,800, $2,000 for that space. I think to remedy it, to say we need the diversity of space, but we also need it to be scaled to, the rent needs to be scaled to those size spaces. And I don't know how we can demand that, but I think that's really the concern.
So just to be clear,
Those spaces are going for thousands and thousands of dollars.
totally hear the point.
Tiny.
There are no rent control types of provisions within this, nor do I think there could be. That's a function of state law. So I'm not sure we'd be able to ask for that in a real serious way and have that modification. I see so many hands up, but I'm just gonna ask, please, can we move on this question?
Well, should we just vote on it? Just vote on it. Make a motion.
The motion that's been made and seconded is to change number 8 from a yes to just a straight no. Forget about
Okay.
kitchens and bathrooms, it's just a
So-
straight no on these smaller.
Ready, okay, so we're going with, again, a vote by affirmation. And then we'll see how many we go down there. Are there, if you are in opposition, raise your hand and then I'll point to you for a vote. Whoa, whoa, this is an opposition.
To the amendment, and the amendment would be to change number 8 from a yes to a no. In other words, if you're okay with the smaller spaces, you would be a no on this amendment.
Can we vote the other way?
Yeah, let's go the other way. Whoa. Going by, looking
We have a
at,
motion to amend to change something. in
the motion is not going by affirmation. Correct. The motion is not going by affirmation. Based on what I've seen in this room thus far, the motion is going, if you do not, is going in opposition. If you do not agree with changing the yes vote that supports smaller housing into a no vote, right? Meaning you are going to
Approve the amendment as it states.
amendment. If you're going to approve this amendment as a yes, please raise your hand. The amendment is to disapprove for small and shared housing.
Which amendment are we talking about? The one that was proposed?
The proposed amendment. The proposed amendment is for to change the approval of small and shared housing to a denial.
No.
If you agree with, Bruce, I'm sorry, question's been called and answered. If you.
I don't have my hand up.
All right.
Honey, just say, do you approve?
It's yes. If you approve of this, please raise your hand.
Approve of change.
Approve of changing to a no.
Approve to change into a no.
Meaning you are going to deny for small and shared housing.
Yeah, I don't want to deny.
Denying smaller.
Can we do
Correct.
a roll call?
All right, roll call's been requested. Everybody put your-
Roll call's been requested because we can't get there.
Hold on.
I don't think you.
I have to make a new column.
You do.
That's what you just voted yesterday.
Yeah, while she's getting prepped.
You just voted to change.
I don't,
No, we're not going through them one by one, guys. It's
I think it's still not clear.
it's on number 8.
I'm sorry,
Only
I
on
don't
number
think
8.
it's still clear. It's not clear what people are voting.
Do we want
Okay.
to?
Patrick, could you please?
Please, we're not.
Okay, guys. Number 8 in the resolution
Do you want to keep it or do you want to change it?
You want to.
is about the small and shared housing proposal. The committee voted and the resolution reads that we would approve that change, meaning allow smaller apartments, smaller housing. Okay?
Share.
And share. Right.
Yes.
Okay? The proposed amendment is to change that from approve to disapprove. So if you vote yes on this question, you're saying, I don't want smaller and shared housing. Keep it as is, no change. If you vote, guys,
on.
please don't paraphrase me.
Morton, I'm gonna kick you off the table and make you move back to sit by yourself. I swear to God.
Guys, listen, please don't paraphrase me, just listen. Listen, if you vote yes on this amendment, you're against the shared housing and the smaller housing. Super simple, all right? If you vote no, you're fine with the way that it's drafted. That's it, okay? Real easy.
Roll
So,
call,
let's go.
everybody silent.
Blank.
I approve I've forgotten already. It's a no. No. Sorry, I'm sorry. It's a no. I mean, it's wacko what's going on here. It's a no. Keep it as it is.
You say no to this. Got it.
Correct.
Brown Kennedy. Yes, thank you. Cameron.
Keep going.
Alrighty. Cassell.
Confused Cassell votes yes.
I don't think people know.
You don't like small houses?
Can you just do it affirmative?
Meaning no comments. Let's keep going.
She's confused. Chang.
I don't think people guess.
Okay, thank you. Chapman.
Chapman votes no.
Okay. Cole.
Cole votes yes.
Thanks. Coleman.
No.
Corman.
Corman, no.
Scroll. My eyes are tired. Kuchar.
Kuchar votes yes.
Curtis.
Curtis votes yes.
Thank you. Airman,
Airman votes no.
thank you. Flynn, no. Forsberg,
I don't believe we should be forcing everybody into small.
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
I'm supportive of SROs and I abstain.
oh,
Oh, Jesus.
the other option. Friedman,
Friedman, no.
Roman, Galloway, Goldstein,
No.
thank you. Goodkind,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Hernandez, yes.
Rashad,
Gershon, no.
James,
James, yes.
Joyce. Oh, right, is she on?
Tricia, she's from the screen.
No, I want choice.
No.
No.
Capel. Yeah.
Don't worry, keep going.
Werner.
Lerner, yes.
Thank you. Lyon.
Ryan, no.
Minsley.
Inslee, yes.
Moore.
Moore votes no.
Pandia. Bushman.
No.
Thank you. Portia Corey. Thank you. Robinson.
Robinson abstains.
Rossi.
Rossi abstained.
Scott.
No.
Shear.
Here, yes.
Star. Verisong.
Yes.
Thompson. Townley.
No.
You.
Yes.
Zelter.
Filter, no.
Man. We're keeping it as it is.
Let's approve.
No.
No, the motion fails.
It's approved.
So again, motion fails, which means what we are voting on stays as is.
Yes, we have no bananas. All right, we're gonna go on to the next one.
Can I just add my vote to that? I thought we weren't doing each one.
We're gonna do. Laura would like to register a vote.
Oh, yeah.
I vote no.
The one number I put in there, I actually have to change.
I'm holding the one amendment, which is changing the yeses to, or the yes with conditions to no with conditions, but are there other?
I thought that was the First Amendment that we voted on.
No.
No, we haven't.
What was the First Amendment?
It was changes, I got it, we're good. All right, so seeing no other hands, no other proposed amendments.
Oh, wait, no. Jill,
7 is extremely important that we
Do you have language?
disapprove unless it has mandatory affordable housing on any conversion.
I think they were all.
which is in the cover, that's in the summary, but if you want it noted in that particular individual one, then it could be added there, because it's already as a general overall.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're telling me is this doesn't matter?
It does matter.
It does, and we can add it there. It is in the cover that says, all zoning changes as part of this proposal mandate the inclusion of affordable housing units as opposed to optional affording housing components from which developers may choose to include. That is part of the cover. If you are saying that you would like it as a requested modification to the conversions.
Yeah.
Patrick?
I'm also requesting it's disapproved unless with modifications.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
that one is.
So, there, just
I
hang
thought
on to
that
that.
one was.
That,
No.
anything that says approved with modifications is a text amendment that Patrick has offered up a while back, saying it will now say disapprove unless. So any,
You haven't voted on
We haven't
it.
voted on that.
that's correct.
That's fine, and I would just,
So you want to add a modification
yes.
that says what?
The
The
affordable
sentence
housing must be
before the
included.
second.
You-
That's why we say,
Okay.
Yeah.
somewhere that it includes mandatory,
Yeah, it's the
permanent,
language you,
It's the UAP language,
yeah.
mandatory, permanent.
affordable housing.
How much? I mean, That all.
I mean, if you ask me, I think we should all agree on 25%, because no one's gonna agree on 40.
Wait, I mean, that's a fundamentally different.
No, I don't.
That's, I think you have to, okay, stop. One of the things that we had talked about in here was if it follows the UAP guidelines or it doesn't, right? We're saying mandatory housing, even UAP isn't that high. So
Then
it just goes after you. If you want to include the word affordable housing, I definitely think, because that fits with what we've already said in committee, that is awesome. But I think we should get away from, at this point at 9:15, of fighting over whether it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%. Just hear me out, Jill, please. Because conversions are more expensive than ground up, which we were told. And they have tax incentives and other things that they could possibly have, blah, 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 blah.
about number, of just, is UAP, if we say according to UAP, because if we want to say mandatory, then UAP is not mandatory. Only MIH is mandatory.
We say that we want UAP to be mandatory. We say it on page 8. CB1 therefore encourages the applicant to incorporate all zoning changes as part of this proposal mandate for inclusion of affordable housing units as opposed to optional affording housing components.
Can we
That's
read
good to know.
that language in that?
That's what she.
Yes, that's exactly what I've said 3 times.
Somewhere in the.
Okay, that's fine. Yes?
Okay.
The tax incentive does incent, you have, it has to be 25% affordable in order to get the tax incentive, and for any DCP, they're already getting interest on a lot of conversions that are even in our district, so I think you're gonna see some such a percent. Get rid of this UAP versus residential FAR maximum difference thing, because I think this is not. The first bullet point, it's complicated, but like, 180 Water Street, for example, I believe it's a 17 FAR the way it was built, but the residential FAR on a C55 is 10. So that's gonna end up being like over 40% that would be acquiring an affordable. There are other buildings throughout the city. There are all kinds of buildings that could be converted that are for various reasons much higher than the FAR when they were built. This could in some cases require 80%, in other cases require.
Commercial FAR is not the same as residential FAR.
That's exactly, that's what this is saying, the difference has to be made up with affordable housing, but that's gonna cause different requirements on every site, and it's just a hodgepodge, and I don't think that's smart policy making at all. Especially considering we have a tax incentive.
Let's not argue back and forth between the two of you, because I don't think that's gonna be helpful. Jill's made her case.
Yeah.
Jess has now made his case. Patrick?
Well, I mean, they sound like two different
Yeah.
proposals. One is to eliminate the first bullet point, and Jill's is more generalized, broader sense of aligning commercial to residential conversions with UAP. So I see them as two different things, and I would take Jill's first. Is there a second on that?
Yes, second.
Great. I think we can do that by acclamation.
Can we just read it? I don't know what we're doing.
It is.
Please just say.
It is a requested modification that matches the exact first cover that we have in here. That says, I'm gonna read it out for the, hopefully.
Last, yeah, say it.
It's bullet point 1 on page 8 in the bottom. So
We
that's-
just read it. This repeating of everything. I mean, it's basically mandating affordability on number 7, period.
Period,
You
yeah.
want,
Conversions.
right, okay. It was
It's already
seconded,
stated in the.
right, so it
And
was
Jill
seconded,
wants it-
so vote on it.
Jill wants it restated in here, which I think
Okay.
is not an issue. I don't think you actually need to do an amendment for it or even vote on it. Me personally.
That's a great vibe. Let's go with that.
Good, yeah, I agree. That's a perfect
Okay.
mandate.
And
Yes, yours.
Is not.
Let's take Jess's. All right, Jess's is to remove the first bullet point because of all the reasons you just said, okay? That motion's been made, is it seconded?
Second.
It's seconded. Does everybody understand?
No.
Jess would like to
Where?
remove
Move number 7.
page 10, the very top, the first bullet point, page 10, bullet point 1. For all buildings newly allowed to convert under this proposal, rather than allow an entire building to convert to residential use, require any residential floor area above the residential FAR maximum of the site to be affordable, subject to requirements under UAP.
No.
It's not what I was saying, to be perfectly honest.
It's not you, this is Jess. You're done. You're done. Except yes, answer, chill, and be quiet. Stop, Joe.
Everyone can see the bullet point on the page. Jess has proposed we remove it. Justina seconded that. Let's call it.
Okay, so we're gonna vote by affirmation. This is an affirmation to remove bullet point 1. All right, are there any opposed?
You seconded them.
I want you to
Just.
Democracy is alive, Justine, thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna
We're not
count.
doing a roll call. We can.
I'm not roll calling, I'm counting. Okay, I'm standing to count, sorry. Okay, you ready? This is a no to the motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, 17, 18. Okay.
19.
19, 20. Motion fails. You just record the vote. It was by affirmation.
All right. All right, so now on the question I posed at the beginning of this exercise, which is changing all of the. Was there another?
I have just a
Okay.
couple, just very small ones. On number 3, the accessory dwelling unit, I feel as if there was a great deal said on that. And one of the things that was suggested was to consider the allowance for attics and basements for accessory dwelling unit, but not to utilize the backyard at a 800 square foot building with 25-foot height. And
What's the modification, please?
Hold on.
to consider allowance for attic and basements for accessory dwelling units, not not the additional building in the backyard. In other words,
We're gonna have to
I'd have to
retake Jess's vote, by the way.
rewrite, I would have to kind of write this up a little bit more coherently, but that was what I remember we were talking about.
We didn't want the housing in the back.
That's right, but that's not being picked up in this, in this.
Did you give them language for this?
I am trying to. So I think the way that the committee had stated this was to allow for accessory dwelling units to be part of to be used, for attics and basements, to allow for accessory dwelling units, but not to allow for the reduction in rear and backyard spaces for the allowance of an additional building. That was what I recall we
Correct.
stated, and that
Correct, we
was
said,
a condition that we had stated.
What was the last part of it? Not allow for the reduction of what?
The rear yard,
Requirements and open space requirements.
Sorry, Jason.
Well-
Can you read it?
I didn't write it. That we were not going, we were fine with attic and basements, but we did not think that we should have buildings taking up the rear yard, the reduction of current allowances for the rear and side yards for an additional building unit. And that was described as something that was 800 square feet and 25
it's
feet
just
high.
no in rear yard and open space.
Right.
Presumably, you're only talking about Manhattan, because in Queens and whatnot, that way.
Right, and because it said this should only be modified to add that it apply only
In Queens and.
we said that any of the modifications for the other stuff should only apply in R1 to R5. And that in nowhere should it be applied to rear yard and open spaces at the committee.
Okay, so for number
Nowhere
3, the
period.
proposal is to add a modification,
That's what we said.
to add a modification, that'll,
Queens that can't do that.
Well, you're adding a 800 square foot, 2-story building to block light and air from your neighbors, from, that was the question that a lot of people felt, no matter where in New York. that
Okay,
should be
let's
allowed.
not rehash the meeting, Patrick.
please. Okay, so that's an additional modification to consider allowance for attics and basements, not to allow for the reduction of backyards and side yards for ADUs or accessory dwelling units, okay? That's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, I guess, or how can we do this?
Yeah,
Affirmation?
we can do this one by affirmation. I think there's a consensus in the room. It was at the meeting.
Yes.
I kind of felt that way. So is there anybody in opposition to this?
Betty.
Betty is one.
Okay.
Anybody online? Okay, great.
Okay, Alice, any others?
Yep, just another one.
Hold on, before you go to the next one, we have to recount the amendment that Jesse had done on proposal 7 to remove the FAR affordable housing bit. So I don't want to do this. I really, really, really do not want to do this by roll call. However, I do need to recount. So if you do say, this is for those who are yes, that you would like to say it's okay under the new proposal in the conversions that any additional residential floor area they have not be subject to the requirements of affordability, which is what Jess asked to remove, then you're a yes. If you were on no, then you are saying that any, under this proposal, when they convert the entire building to residential use, any FAR additional above the maximum for that site should be subject to affordable housing.
So either we agree with this or we disagree.
Either we keep it or we take it away.
Correct. It's a yes to take it away. It's a no to keep it here.
Okay.
So I just need the yeses so I can count appropriately.
Is this the one that we already covered?
That's the one you told me we didn't have the right
Okay,
count
here we
on.
go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is yes to take away. 6, 7, 8, 9.
Did you count Bob?
Yeah, I did. Again, hands back up, just to make sure I got it right and there's no arguments here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got it. I got
Okay,
eight yeses in the room.
Okay, we're done. That's
And were
it.
you a yet? That's 9. That's 9.
Okay, so it,
There we go. 9 yeses and the rest were against.
All right, motion
It did
failed.
not pass. It did not pass.
Did not pass.
I'm just going to suggest that on number 9, campus infill, now that it's, your amendment, no, with, unless, any application, on the first bullet point, just to be consistent that it would require a special permit, much like you did in bullet 3, Patrick, on item number 7. Any application for campus infill should require a CPS special permit process. Period, I guess, for campus infill.
Well, that's different. So a special permit process would be different, right? That would be different than just community board and full city council.
Well, I think it's more encompassing. Well, you could put all 3 then, but I would say you would certainly,
Well, it's gonna be one or the other, I think, right?
well,
Is this what we were talking about with IPN and the tower? The
Yeah.
campus
yes.
and the possibility of it happening in Southbridge. where the-
Yeah, I remember that George Janes advised us on the special permit process. That's actually why I picked up that language. So I would just be sure as to which one he did confirm, but I thought that was what he said. In fact, I'm sure it was what he said because I wrote it down. I don't know enough about the nuance there, but that was what he had recommended for us.
So you're offering to add a bullet point on number 9,
Yes. That's correct. Any application requiring
require a special permit process.
for campus infill.
Oh, the mirror the language.
Other question?
Yeah.
That includes the city council review and.
Yeah.
community-
I thought so, yes. I think that's what a special permit process does.
Remember.
Yeah, so I think it's a little more,
Permit process is, I wish someone would city company, I don't believe requires the full city council review.
But
City
we're-
council member is asked to weigh in, but it's still a special permit that's issued, by the chair. I could be confusing that with chair's recommendation, but, my recollection is we went with, community board and full city council review specifically because we wanted it to be bigger and broader than.
okay, then leave it. If that's accurate, then I'm not gonna, yeah, let's draw it. And then the last thing, yeah, and that, well, it is if that's what you're saying is accurate. If it's not, then I would say keep it. But whichever one is going to assure that, that kind of communication. Then 16 was something that we, were sort of the other additions. I don't know, we didn't, it was like a fake 16. which is like the changes to the yards, the windows, that was something that city planning didn't really give us an opportunity to opine on, but I think we really should. Which is to, and maybe this goes under general conditions as an amendment to, not to reduce the scale of the yards, courts, rear yards, side yards, courtyards, as part of the new the zoning text. I mean, I think that was something we said many, many times. No?
No.
Decided at the end not to do that, because so many of these changes are on those.
On the reduction of the rear yard and side
Yeah,
yards?
because
I
we
don't
do
remember
have
that.
Some donuts, some this.
Yeah, and it's-
We said no to rear yards, clearly, and side yards.
And just so everybody knows.
Okay.
What I was referring to at the end of George James's memo, for those of you who went through it, he identified what he saw as sort of 4 additional proposals or 4 additional buckets of the proposal that he thought we might want to consider. At the end of the meeting, the committee decided we'd had enough. We really didn't think we needed to consider it because we commented on those proposals more or less within the other 15 buckets. And George, I don't say he agreed, but more maybe he relented. I don't know. But by that point of the meeting, we were all done with it. So that's what Alice is referring to.
Okay. There was also a reference to waterfront zoning, which
Well,
does
if we could
not necessarily apply to us now, but will apply to us 30 years from now, when the LMCR and all of the additional infill gets put in and there's ULURP processes and everything else. So that zoning will.
So we opted not to consider, do yes, no, or whatever modification of those pieces that George identified. But Alice, is your proposal that we go through each of those and?
No, just a simple, I mean, okay, it sounds like we won't be able to be doing that. Maybe it's a separate, that maybe we don't want to take that on, but I certainly think that we should be opining on those very important things. But whatever, you can leave it out if it's gonna.
Okay. Do you want to?
And then lastly, just, again, this actually was something that I spoke to George about, but he felt the CPC special permit should be the expression used rather, actually, he wrote me, than just CB council review. So this was on items 9 and 14.
Back to that then. You want
That's
to change that?
that's a verbiage change, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only going against what our, or repeating what our consultant advised us to do in this, so.
That's a clarification, and I don't think we need to vote on that.
Okay,
I
good,
think
good
we can
point.
Accept those.
Yeah, that's a good point. I
Do
agree.
you have a clarification on 9, Jess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what we discussed, but I remember there was some discussion regarding whether the 100% affordable housing, we were just going to apply that to NYCHA campuses, instead of county campuses, or everywhere, because if it's everywhere, we're going beyond what existing is on, so.
Exactly.
The new building now doesn't have to be 100% affordable.
But maybe it should be.
Changes, but I'm just wondering what.
I think we all thought,
In my language, I use public housing in the overall language as 100%.
I think that,
I should say, because otherwise we're.
okay.
going beyond existing.
Yeah, but I don't remember us discussing that.
I don't think.
Patrick, do you have any memory of that campus info?
Oh, we absolutely stated that it was going to be 100% affordable. That was something that a lot of people,
I thought it was just.
I don't remember public.
I remember it.
Remember that
It's a
discussion.
tape.
I'm okay to leave that. I mean,
Look, guys, when I
yeah.
drafted this resolution, spent like 5 hours drafting through, I went back through the.
Exactly.
Very,
Exactly.
very carefully.
We did.
I don't know.
No, I'm saying,
Anybody
I'm
else's
saying,
memory,
nope,
but I'll.
nope, I'm saying that
It's a challenge that this reflects what.
I'm saying we're good on that. Jess, I appreciate where you are, but it was said, it was agreed, and we're moving on from that. Okay. Alice, do you have
Last
anything
one,
else?
yep. Just to be clear on the special permits, just that there were 21 that were removed, and that is now what George was telling us. Anyway, the one other thing I spoke about, which is the clarification on how climate change and that, heat gain and rainproofing are being addressed by the zoning. I think that, I don't know, that could be a whereas, but something that allows for that to be something that we,
So whereas that, all zoning changes take into account how
Climate change.
climate change, heat gain, rainproof are addressed by adding zoning density on any given site.
Anybody find that?
It's just a whereas.
I think it could be there for be a resolve.
Bullet in the general comments.
Oh, is it? Okay, well then, great.
Proposed,
Future change.
No.
Well, this, I think I read these things.
I know it is, an environmental impact statement.
Well, on those specific, I didn't see that. Okay. It mentions climate change and,
It's proposed, right? Or?
Yes, yes.
oh, okay,
Page
your,
eight, the page 8, the original second bullet says,
At the bottom of
any,
the page.
any future changes. to
Beyond,
zoning
yeah,
or changes
beyond
to increase
current.
housing supply, there could be an environmental impact statement.
Okay.
oh, okay, well, that's a little
We'll leave it
different,
at
but
that.
okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay, thank you, Patrick.
Okay, so I think we're done. I'm saying we're
One
done.
more, one last one, which is to change all the yes with conditions to no with conditions. And wherever,
It's a
there's-
no unless. It's a no unless or a yes with
and
condition.
wherever there's a yes that hasn't otherwise been changed in this now hour something long discussion, that be changed to no with modifications, and the reference to the modification will be the general comments at the beginning of the, therefore be it resolved.
May I second that?
Call the question,
Okay.
yeah.
So this is still an amendment, and then we got one more vote, which is the actual resolution.
All right.
So if we agree with you, Patrick, we raise our hand.
Patrick, what
Yes.
happens if it's an approval and there are no modifications that are there?
That is going to be changed to a no with modifications, and the reference to modification will again be the general comments that are at the beginning, like we did for number 1 and number 2.
The only one is the 8, which was the small.
Look, when we started this out,
Yep,
we.
gotcha.
Okay, let's go. It's called to question, go.
It's been called, it's been seconded. I am roll calling this. Please don't argue
wait,
on
it's
this.
just the amendment.
No, we don't need to, no.
Oh, thank God. Okay, so this is,
Okay,
okay, it's a vote by affirmations for the amendment. If you are opposed to the amendment, raise your hand.
You're against changing it to.
Quiet. Okay. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so we're gonna go around the room. You are opposed to, those who have their hands up are opposed to changing it to a deny unless.
I'm saying,
No unless.
No, these are the people who want it to be, remain the way it is. So it's 4, 5 people.
Okay, this is Thompson. Thompson, yes. Cody? Cody, yeah, this is, these are people who object to changing it to a deny unless from a, Galloway. Coleman, no. Okay, no.
Okay.
Anybody online?
Wait.
Porch Court.
Porsche Corey, sorry, I can't see you, Morton Stanley. Thank you. Meltzer abstains. Meltzer has a headache. All right. Is there anybody online?
Flynn also abstains.
Star abstains.
All right. Motion passes.
Now on the main question of the resolution.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
We're roll calling. Actually, I don't think we need to roll.
Yeah,
call.
it's
I take
the
it
end,
back.
that's
I
it.
take it back. I take it back. We do not need to roll call. We have done all that we have done. All right?
Okay.
So with this, the way we are rolling is this is a vote for affirmation for all the work that we've done. Okay? And changed. Are there any in opposition?
I thought that was the last.
That's the list.
Sorry.
This is for every single solitary one we've done, the 15.
This is for the whole resolution, now that we've talked about it a lot.
Whole kit and caboodle.
Coleman, no.
Hold on.
you know,
Tammy, you said you'd get to the landmarks question. I read it 10
Oh,
times.
okay.
Can someone just summarize that one piece?
I don't understand.
No.
No, Bruce, you gotta read the detail. I'm sorry, but we did go through and basically we are saying, no, I'm not going back there. We're in the middle of a vote. I apologize. You can abstain if you need to. All right, so Brendan was a no.
Wait, did you vote?
Did you?
He
I'm
was
sorry.
just helping.
Oh, thank God. Okay, so Coleman was a no, you was a no. Are there any other no's in the room?
Betty was a no.
Betty.
Oh,
Kay is an abstain. Are there any noes or abstentions online?
Well, you didn't ask for abstains in the.
Hold on, I'll get online and then I'm coming back. Hearing none, are there any abstentions in the room? Lyon abstains, Galloway abstains, Rossi abstains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, motion passes. Patrick, I owe you a cocktail.
Yay, Patrick. Amazing, miraculous job.
He gets to do that.
Okay. Landmarks is going next.
Okay. When we just did.
Landmarks is gonna go next because they.
Want to
need
leave right away.
Yeah.
So we saw one proposal. You guys know this hotel. It's right on, what is that? Chambers in West Broadway near Serafina. It's the Frederick Hotel. They want to paint the side with this kind of lettering exactly as you see here, the scale really as you see here. It's the northern facade of the building. You know, you could call it a secondary facade. Hotels have been painting and having marquees forever. Seems appropriate. We thought it was worthy of 3 paragraphs worth of resolution, and I think we probably could all agree it's an approvable proposal.
Okay, any hands up for questions? Gerald? And really, I am gonna say everybody gets 1 minute. We're lightning round from here forward on any questions for anything.
So why wasn't the Frederick stretched out so that the K lined up with the bottom window?
Oh, you know, I don't know the answer. You can write a letter to the person.
LPC?
No, I don't know.
I wasn't in the,
Yeah,
I
but-
wasn't at the, so.
Okay, next, any other questions? Question was called, question was second. This is landmarks. Okay, we're gonna do a vote by affirmation. Are there any in opposition? Meltzer. Sorry.
You know what?
I hate it. Sorry.
I was like the K all the way to the bottom.
Writing on. Sorry. I'm burnt after that. You leave me alone. Okay. Who has their hand up online?
Or does anybody?
Is there anybody opposed online or abstains? Are there any recusals in the room or at the motion passes? Thank you.
Yeah.
Meltzer. All right, Pat.
Making it very short. Everybody.
I love you.
Knows the problems, you know, there are definite quality of life problems in Greenwich South on Rector Street between Washington and Greenwich Street. And so at this meeting, we had huge police presence. We had the operators of the 105 Washington Safe Haven Shelter that will be opening at the end of the month. And we had the operator of the migrant shelter, former hotel that's now a migrant shelter, discussed the quality of life issues. We had done a walkthrough a week before. The residents were given information by the police on how to go about reporting crimes and reporting what's going on. And all I can say at this point is that everybody's going to try to do something to help improve the quality of life. If you're really interested in minutia, you can go online and listen to the meeting. That's it.
I love a fast report. Does anybody have any questions for Pat? Fantastic. Francis, did you go to the LMH?
Yeah, okay, we have a seat on their tab, but Betty and I share, meetings. This last meeting, the first one I've been to this year, basically, you know, I'm just going over the agenda. They did hospital report, they talked about all the renovations and new things that you're upgrading the hospital with, the physical hospital. The community update that they're still volunteering, doing work with the Barron Mission, and also some volunteering, volunteer program for the new arrivals in St. Mark's Church. And also they have a program that they do with they have a summer youth program, which I'm going to follow up on because it sounds like it's something that we should look into extending to our young people here. Because, basically, a lot of their programming is done in Chinatown and some parts of Brooklyn, and they don't, I don't know if anybody else does, but I don't see their presence on this side of Canal Street in the community at all. And trying to look at ways to help them improve that.
Thank you, Francis. All righty, next committee.
Oh, God, I'm going to take Pat's lead here. Go watch it in the YouTube. Okay, Rainproof New York City was the presentation. This is a collaborative initiative launched by the not-for-profit Rebuild by Design that works with many stakeholders, MOCJ and DEP and all sorts of people. Well, go back one. That's the only thing. That's their goal. The main goal is to learn how to live with water. I love that. Turn your urban jungle into a sponge. We're asking them to return because basically they talked about process the whole time. This fact was a 6-month period of working with many city agencies. And I try and identify what the recommendations are, but we didn't really learn what those were except for the high level ones, which is on the next slide. Managing increasing heavy rainfall, housing mobility, and every has a role to play. So there you go. Next up, Seaport Coast Resilience. So we had a Lower Manhattan Quarterly Resiliency as a project update. And the only thing that was new of this, the peninsula was the Seaport Coastal Resiliency in Orange. And they had a meeting, which was pretty poorly attended, unfortunately, which we hope to have better turnout in the fall. And in any case, this is a design for sea level rise and flooding, not for storm surge, which is what the FIDI Seaport is. Next slide. And, okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, next slide. And basically, lots of feedback, but they need more. So I would really ask that everyone starts to really write down their thoughts about this pretty important piece of our infrastructure. And they will be coming back in the fall and promise to do so prior, and I go on record here, to the presentation at the Public Design Commission. So we really look forward to hearing and seeing where these alignments are and why, and with drawings that are really legible that show sections of the site as well as plans. That's it. There's the timeline, which it is important to look that we will have a design workshop on the Seaport plans in late fall. So keep it in mind. Okay, the last part of the evening was is the resolution. You can turn to it in your little booklets here. It's a very short resolution. Both Justine's committee, Battery Park City, and our environmental protection divided the same review. In other words, we are looking at the 60% design phase of the whole Northwest Battery Park after the June 20th Battery Park City public meeting, and so is Justine's committee. She's looking at timeline and impacts on quality of life. We looked at resiliency. And what I decided to do is, in lieu of going over all the where the therefore be it resolves and points, which you've already read, we are showing you together the fly through of exactly what this will look like. So while you're listening, you can see, here we are coming down North Moore Street, what this actually will look like. And it's a great piece that is available on the Battery Park City website if you want to look at it again. And, check out to the left, those are the walls that you're seeing as you move along. And if you have any, so now's the time to ask me if you have any, as we watch this, for those of you interested, you're going down North Moore Street, you can see the wall and the wall and the wall, and it'll get higher and higher. And then you'll see this very big floodgate. Oh, yeah. And then we get to West Street. Oh, yeah, there's West Street. I just think it was important that people kind of understood what the heck we were always talking about. Oh, here we are along the Manhattan Borough Community College. And soon you will be crossing over the highway into Battery Park City. So this is a very consequential program. You can see that hole will be another 60-foot gate approximately. Now we're coming down, and hopefully you can see, oh, good, it was big. Yeah, I have it very small here.
Where's this house? Oh, Route 9A.
Yes, this is Route, yeah, it should say it, yeah. Does everyone?
It says it.
Okay, great. So to not, I'm happy to point things out, but it is a good time if you have questions about any of this. in my in our committee's resolution, there were 13 points, and our approach was, I've written 4 resolutions on this Northwest Battery Park City, and my feeling was, and the committee agreed, let's just highlight what hasn't yet been achieved by the Battery Park City Committee, Battery Park City Authority, in terms of things we've asked for as a community. And that's what those 13 points are. Any questions? That's it. Otherwise, someone can call to question if you'd like. Oh, yeah, then you should go. You're right.
All right, so does anybody, I'm hoping everybody's already read the resolutions. Does anybody, while this is running behind us, have any questions on the resiliency parts of the resolutions? No, I have one. Can we put in there a friendly amendment to ask for the detailed information on the variances that were given for the foliage, the trees, and the areas around in Rockefeller by the children's playground?
No variances.
There are no variances.
I thought they.
There's none.
No, that's why they moved.
I mean, that was the whole point, is why they moved the wall. Here we are looking at it right now. They moved the wall 3 feet into the park to protect the trees on the street. And therefore, they're within 15, allegedly, they're within 15.
But what we did ask for is point number, wherever it is, we did ask for the presentation of more information on the potential for a variance for the 15-foot vegetation. Right, and so that will obviously bring this issue up, so we have that in here, okay? Good.
I'm
All right.
shutting up.
All right, so,
Your question, and if.
yeah,
the
okay.
reason why I'm wanting to jump
Excuse me,
in
has anybody else got a question?
I was just, on number 8 in the, long list. I was
Yep,
only amendment, if I could.
yeah,
Just the modeling or simulation of floodplain showing the, project in conduct of Rebecca north of Chambers Street to the south side of Canal. It's just, Canal Street is kind of a random because the project stops at North Moore. I just think that it should be a little bit more general, just to say, how, the wet side, if we could have some modeling on the wet side of the wall and Canal Street seems strange.
it's not strange because it's at the end of our community board, and it is actually where the water came in, and it is where the tunnel is, and that's why we picked Canal. But I'm happy to put it wherever you'd like, but yeah.
I think it should be.
Just tell me,
Just
North Tribeca.
North Tribeca.
Okay. Showing in North Tribeca, inclusive of. Okay, perfect.
Modeling of what? Modeling of the.
Of the west side of the wall.
Floodplain. In other words, the idea was that somebody had brought up is, what is this doing to the rest of the neighborhood? How is flooding going to be, what is it going to look like, basically? I'm sorry. Okay, hang on a second. Betty, I can't hear you. Betty, I can't hear you.
Closer, please.
Just.
You sound a little
No,
muddled.
you can just speak up, yeah.
Over and over again, the authority does not have the authority to do anything outside of the 92 acres.
Nobody's asking them to, yeah.
Anything on the west side, they don't care, they can't afford to care about, they do not have a mandate, and they care about it.
Yeah, to be clear, Betty, that was something that we had asked for in committee and are repeating here, which was simply to show floodplain maps of what the whole looks like, their work as compared to all of Lower Manhattan. That was the ask. Well, they seem to agree that they were able to do it and they would do it. The landscape architects that were there said they actually had that information. So let's see what they provide, right? But I hear you. It's a good point. If they don't have it, they won't give it to us. Jared.
Slightly, on the point of that, just to we identify that's the location of one of the few fatalities kind of reference.
Sure, Lake Street.
Yeah, actually, would be on the list.
Well,
Let's not argue about wet and dry. Okay? Justine.
I just want to I want to answer or say something else, what Betty was saying. The authority has taken on themselves to protect more than the 92 acres of Battery Park City. It's 92 acres of Battery Park City plus 88 acres outside of Battery Park City. However, what Betty is saying is really important. Their funds and their money and their mandate is to get it only in the dry side. That does not in any way, shape, or form mean that the people on the other side of North Street are not important. It's just not Battery Park City Authority's.
Nobody's questioning that, so let's move on. We were asking for, yeah.
But I guess my frustration is have the architects from Battery Park City Authority dig around and get that information costs money, and it's more money that's being spent. And it's frustrating for the folks in Battery Park City.
They already said that they had the information, so let's
Okay.
kind of go.
All right,
on.
any other questions or concerns to address?
Call the question?
Thanks.
Awesome. We're gonna go by a vote from affirmation. Are there any, Francis, you got something?
No.
Okay. Are there any in opposition? Hearing and seeing none, are there any recusals? Are there any abstentions? Forsberg recuses. Great, motion passes.
Thanks. So take it away, Justine, you're at Pump House Park now, moving south.
Forward, yep, and.
We could run it again.
No, I don't think anybody wants to run it again and watch it.
Well,
So.
background.
Moving forward, I have a very long resolution. I'm gonna focus on the therefore be it resolved. But most of what we're talking about is the design points. So over here, we would see what they are here. But starting on page.
It's not the assumption was that
Therefore
everyone.
be resolved. I'm gonna assume everybody has read this. Does anybody have any questions or additions to my questions? For the numbers 1 to 13? I see nothing in the room. Anybody online, you guys are gonna have to tell me this.
Nope, nobody.
Anybody have any questions about anything else in here?
Nope.
Perfect. Second, let's go.
All right, this again is gonna be a vote by affirmation. I'm really liking when people are somewhat tired. Okay, are there any opposed to this resolution? Are there any abstentions? Corman abstains. Forsberg recuses.
Oh, I have one,
Meltzer abstains as well.
I had
I
one,
didn't get a chance to read the entire thing. Sorry.
I just had one amendment, I was gonna ask if you could.
Too late, vote was
Oh,
taken.
oh, shit, okay, sorry, it's okay.
One thing I'd like to point out to everybody, because I know that everybody's tired of.
Motion passes.
It does pass, great. The last therefore be it resolved has a link, if you see it online. Please go and check out the temporary uses of open spaces and designs, because we have allegedly until September 2nd to make a comment, and as, last page, Brigham. Lot of pages, Pat.
Okay,
I
Justine,
think-
email that out. We'll remind everybody and send it by email. Okay? I
Right.
leave it incumbent on the chair and co-chair to send that link to to man one, so it can get sent back out.
Okay, but thanks.
Send it out as a special dedicated email. All right, thanks. Let's stop the video and let's go to the next committee. Thank you so much. It was a cool video. The video is online if anybody would like to see more of it.
Nobody gets that phone.
Battery Park City site, they have fantastic
Yeah.
website.
And the link to-
Next committee, Justine's already done.
Yeah, I think I
Nope.
can skip my. I
Keep
have
going.
report. Sorry, I've got two reports, so don't do the slides. The slides just keep going.
Never mind the slides for Battery Park City, please, Onej.
Just
It's okay.
important
I'm
stuff.
talking and getting the report, I'm sorry. We had two different things. We had the Liberty Street, no, the community gardens that came and did a report, and let us know that they are having about 60 people, I believe, on their waiting list, but they're moving them along. About, probably there's 4 people kind of bump off each year, but 6 people sign up, so it's a rotating thing. The two things or the important things that, just bringing to your attention is that they're looking for an additional garden location. And they've talked with the Battery Park City Authority, met with them to try to see if they can identify and locate additional space, someplace to do it. Pointed out that maybe that should be in the north neighborhood, because around the south neighborhood. And then the other thing that was of importance in the gardening world was that they've got a lot of vandalism. So they're talking about trying to figure out ways to lock the gardens, because they're losing fruit, they're losing plants. And then, of course, I guess homelessness has made its way to Battery Park City, because some of
It's
the.
everywhere.
Yeah, some of the folks come in and use the hose to shower, which is, it rinsed off with the hose, but then they also destroy the plants, because they don't turn it off.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, licensing.
Wait. Great job, Betty. Betty did a great job with with her North Battery Park City and South traffic and parking issues report. And it was a really great report. And we're going to be having I think a meeting sometime soon with that committee and talking about this with the Battery Park City Authority to figure out ways to make the streets safer.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Betty. Licensing, the question I have for licensing, how many can you take together? 3.
All of them?
It's our girl.
That's my girl.
And then we've got the stipulations, there's all these issues, road bed and blah, 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 but these are very straightforward. You can take them all and we mentioned them.
I love that. Does anybody have any questions on the 3 applications before us for liquor licenses?
Second.
It's been called, it's been seconded, we're doing a vote by affirmation. Are there any no's to the 3 applications?
That's great.
Wait a minute, yeah.
Financial and one for battery.
Hearing and seeing no's, no no's in the room, no no's online. Are there any abstentions? Are there any recusals? Motion's passed. Thank you, Susan. Yes.
I just want to acknowledge that we voted on and discussed the commenting on the dining out at the beginning. And it was done because it had to be done as an executive committee. And we had voted on the licensing and we made some changes and it's made it better in executive. So I just wanted to acknowledge that that was our process.
Thank you very much. And as everybody notices, as we see the lovely security ladies circling around us, like sharks. Betty, you are taking us home. You are the last resolution of the night. And then I will ask everyone to please clean up after yourselves. The office does not clean up after us. Please take whatever is left over. Please throw things in the garbage. Please help. We don't need to stack the chairs, but make sure you don't leave any papers behind. It all goes in recycling so we can turn the lights out. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Okay, Betty, take us home. Betty or Jess, who's ever leading.
Residential parking permit is being subdivided as rural is happening now. There is not, I think, a hardcore process right now, what they plan on doing. Watch the tape if you're interested. Some will ask me about the whole concept. We're removing the pricing or finding a letter. I have to put snowball period. That was tabled. That resolution at home. Third item.
Betty, you need to come closer. I'm sorry, people online cannot hear you. You must come to where they can see you and hear you. Gerald, can you move a little bit to your left? Your right?
It's a question, it's the only resolution we voted on tonight, about tonight, and that is asking for New York City Ferry to award and application just to award the.
May I ask why you didn't say JFK?
Because it was asked, and there were some wetland issues around JFK, and the committee felt that to drop that and leave it all, especially since one of the requests is of city council, which currently has a resolution to support New York City Ferry going to LaGuardia Airport.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Betty?
Call the question.
Second.
Awesome. Roll call. This is our last one. Keep it very quiet, please, so Mimi doesn't have to shout. Mimi, take it away.
Blank.
Blank, yes, and happy August.
Brown Kennedy. Cameron.
Cameron, yes.
Thank you. Cassell.
It's that again.
Thank you. Chang.
Yes.
Thank you. Chapman.
Yes.
Thank you. Poll.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Coleman. Thank you. Portman.
Foreman, yes.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Pucci, yes.
Thank you. Curtis. Thank you. Airman. Nope.
Nope.
And yes. Forsberg.
Yes.
Thank you. Roman.
Yes.
Yes.
Me?
Galloway.
Yes.
Thank you. Goldstein.
Yes.
Thank you. Goodkind. Thank you. Hernandez. Thank you. Irshad. Thank you. James.
This is too cool.
Kay.
I know.
Lerner. Lyon.
Lion, yes.
Meltzer.
Yes.
Minsley.
Yeah.
Moore.
More yes.
Pena.
Yes. Pandya, yes.
You gotta be on camera.
Pandya, you have to be on camera when you vote, please.
Skip Joyce.
Skip Joy. Trisha.
Oh, well, yeah, you weren't on for a little while, so.
Okay, Pandya, I see a face.
Right.
She says yes.
Yes.
Joyce, auditory vote.
Gotta say it out loud.
Yes.
Thank you. Portia Corey. Thank you. Robinson. See you in September. Okay. Rossi. Thank you. Scott.
Yes.
Thanks. Shear.
Whoa!
Yes.
Yeah.
Star.
Hold on, please stop stacking chairs. We can't hear it on the video. Thank you.
Star.
Do not stack
Star,
the
yeah.
chairs at the table. Leave them.
Okay.
Voting is continuing.
Laura Starr.
Yes.
Thank you. Vera Sung. Yes. Thank you. Shanton.
Yes.
Thank you. Townley.
Yes.
Thank you. You.
Minsley.
Yes.
Thank you. Zelter.
Seltzer, yes.
Thank you.
Morton. Please be quiet.
All right. Anyway, later.
All right. That is it. Meeting is adjourned 10:05. Have a nice summer.
Summer, there's only August.
Bye.
I'll see everybody in.
Bye, everybody.
When we see ya. Enjoy the neighborhood.
You and I have to talk about the public art, the images like, oh, where's Alice? She didn't say anything about the images.